Preston Ebner checking in for Smith. Ebner split wide left. Chapin looking up top. He's looking for Ebner. Ebner's open. He has it. Touchdown Bears. A 61-yard score.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Here's Pollard. Over to Pollard. Put it on. Carlson. He gets past him. Look at Pollard taking it for the touchdown.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Trying to catch the Sooner defense flat-footed. And pushing the pile in for a touchdown. Warren gives Oklahoma State the lead back.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Smith to the air. Blitz coming. Ball's down. Baylor recovers. You could see it coming off the edge untouched. And Smith was absolutely crunched. It was the corner blitz. Raleigh Tejada.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, Craig will join us momentarily. Needed to get a rental car. A few weeks ago, he was driving back from a game we were doing, a high school game, and some idiot wanted to get, in that where the lanes go down from 3 or 4, from 2 to 1, whatever, and he just was bound and determined, and eventually kind of just scratched up the front of his car, but it's covered by the other guy's insurance. So he'll be here in a minute. He was having a little bit of delay with the rental car. Now, we've got a lot to get into. How about this topic to start the day? The 4 colleges that we have seen with openings and or closings, USC, Notre Dame, LSU, and Oklahoma, and yes, we know there have been other bigger names, but those are 4 pretty big dudes, right? Those are some alphas. Who would those be? Who would those be when it comes to 4 teams that had openings in the National Football League that have that kind of clout?
Well, considering that I would say that at least clout-wise, Alabama would be the Cowboys. You have to take that out. But I would say it would be like the Steelers, Packers, Patriots, and Raiders. Well, I guess maybe Alabama's the Patriots. So let's put...
No, wait a minute. Steelers, Packers, Cowboys.
Yeah.
And you have one left.
And the Raiders.
Okay. Area code 217 sent this to me. I think it was towards the end of the show yesterday. He had the Cowboys, the Giants. It's a powerful franchise, although they're obvious. Well, I mean, Cowboys are trying to dig themselves out of a hole. Packers and Steelers. Steelers haven't been that good lately, although they've been okay. Patriots have been kind of the standard for 20 years, but, so that's something for you to help us. You give us that. If you're on the chat room on 365 Sports, give us 4. Don't give us 5. Don't give us 9. 4. 4 NFL franchises equal to openings being available in college football of late with USC, that's filled, Notre Dame, LSU, that's filled, and Oklahoma as well. So that's from the 217. We appreciate that as a possibility. All right, the college football playoff standings released. They kind of messed with a few people, maybe I never thought Baylor, honestly. I know that there was if 3 or 4 things could happen, well then, yeah, 9 things could happen. But I never thought that they had a chance. Even if everything fell into place, I just felt like it wouldn't happen. Even like for example, how much would it suck though if you had you played in a championship game, you had a chance to get in the Final Four or the 4, and yet Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference championship game because that hurt TCU and Baylor, the first one back in 2014. College football, Mississippi moved ahead of Baylor, beat Mississippi State. Kentucky moved into the top 25. Where are they from, Paul?
Kentucky?
The SEC.
Yeah.
The only 4-loss teams that are ranked are Texas A&M and Arkansas. What conference are they in?
The SEC.
And then this is from the 419. If my math, Smokey, is correct, that's just under about 25% from the SEC. There's 6 teams out of 25. 3 lost teams include North Carolina State and Clemson, and they're both ahead of 11-1 San Diego State and Houston. So that's kind of just an overview. I didn't watch it. I just then all of a sudden my email in my inbox, there's the top 25. Baylor dropped to number 9. Oklahoma State is right there, right on the edge. And so it'll be interesting because look what happened over the weekend. Some things happened we didn't think would happen.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Oklahoma State's still not getting the love. I mean, I know it's Alabama's the one that's keeping them out, not Cincinnati. Alabama is. I think Oklahoma State's resume to this point is better than Alabama's. But, again, they're also not Alabama. So, Alabama is the only school on this list necessarily, and even Michigan is a storied program, but they haven't been good lately, and Georgia is a storied program. But Alabama is the only team on this list that's getting credit for something it did a year ago.
Well, something they've done the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And again, they have that in their favor. They did discuss Notre Dame about a coach moving out, and could that affect them? I don't know. I don't believe anything Gary Barta says. I don't believe anything any of them say, but we'll get your thoughts on that as well. We don't have a guest till 3:45, and our guest will talk about Virginia Tech's new head coach. So if you want to call, 254-339-1122, that line is open. Let me go into something with Alabama. Alabama's Alabama. Let me see. Beat Miami when they were 14th. Are they still rated?
No.
Florida was 11th, and they won by 2. Are they still ranked?
No.
Mississippi was 13th or 12th, and now they're 8th.
That's their good win.
And they won that by 21. Probably the best game they played all year long. Arkansas was 21. They're still 23 or so, and they beat Arkansas by 7. And then, of course, wins against Auburn, among some others. A&M, they're unranked, and the loss to A&M as well. But, yeah, there's no question. There's no question. And I am not personally saying that Alabama would beat, that the teams 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 would beat them. But, again, isn't that why you should play the games and find out?
Yeah, but I think the point I'm trying to make with Alabama is that whether Alabama would beat any of the teams in the top 4 should not be the point. The point should be, have you earned your way in to the top 4? If there's only going to be 4 and there's not going to be 12 in the college football playoff, expansion committee left today without an agreement, and so that's going to continue on. They'll get to it eventually, but they're not there yet on the 12-team playoff. But if you're only going to have 4, shouldn't you have to earn your way into the 4?
Okay, of the 4, who has? Georgia has.
Yeah.
Cincinnati has.
Yeah, and I think Michigan
has.
Yeah. So those 3 have, and I think Oklahoma State has. Now, that's the argument I think is Oklahoma State versus Alabama at this point. And, for example, look, Baylor, I don't know if Baylor dropped because they struggled against Texas Tech or if that was just they needed to make room for Ohio State not to drop too far. But
okay, what did you say?
They needed to make room for Ohio State not to plummet.
No, yeah, we knew that. There was no way they were going to drop below Baylor. But here's the thing, though, about Baylor. They struggled against Texas Tech with a backup quarterback, okay? Mm-hmm. And did Alabama roll Auburn?
No, that was the point I was just about to make.
Okay.
So Alabama did the same thing and actually struggled even more mightily that it took them 4 overtimes to beat a team with the same record. So
had they lost that game, Paul, where would Alabama be today?
Oh, probably only about 7th. I mean, where Ohio State is.
One of the things I see, and again, this is all setting up what will be on Sunday when they release it. Someone just texted that Ole Miss is where they are. They moved them up a notch to prop up Alabama, and most likely that's the case. And the teams at the bottom of the top 25. Our good friend Dave Bartu, you love him. He's going to join us today to discuss it sometime in the mid to late part of the 4 o'clock hour.
All right, let's go to the phones on the BetUS caller line. Diane, you have a decision, I'm told, about what you're going to do this weekend.
I do. I bought my ticket. So I am going to Arlington. I'm actually just headed back from the Metroplex right now. I really want to just pull into the Grapevine Gaylord and go in and tell some people my opinion, because they obviously need some further input in that committee. But they probably have security, so that probably would have been a bad idea. But yep, I'm going to the game.
All right,
there you go.
All right.
Thank you, Diane. Appreciate it. From day one and even prior to that, where we were, has been a listener of what we do.
I was just at the Gaylord. I left a bunch of notes in the room I thought I was going to be in. I guess they got cleaned up and thrown out.
What's that?
I was just at the Gaylord.
Yeah, I know.
For a couple days. Yeah. So I left. I found the conference room. I left a bunch of handwritten notes, which I'm sure they subscribed to the rantings of a madman. But they didn't clearly listen.
Maybe that's why this thing's so screwed up. They did read your notes. All right, 254-339-1122. Craig will join us. Once he's here, he had to wait on the rental car. You know how hard it is to get a rental car these days? Almost impossible. It's hard to get pre-owned cars for dealerships. You can imagine what it's like for rental car businesses as well.
I'm asking this. Is that because the rental car dealerships sold some of their lot to make a little scratch to the...
I don't know. There's a lot of dealerships, as we know. Some of them, of course, are part of this show as sponsors. They can't get that little that module or whatever it is, that thing that they can't get it. They can't get to it. They can't get it to the dealerships or to the places to build cars. So, okay, enough of that. So, Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't have a conference championship game. Ohio State 7th. They're not in the conference championship game. Mississippi 8th. They're not in the conference championship game. Baylor 9th. They are. 10th, Oregon. They are. Brigham Young, by the way, looks good for Baylor. They're at number 12 in the country. Now, I got to vote for the Heisman Trophy. We'll go back to the calls. I have to vote for the Heisman Trophy by, I think it's Sunday night or Monday. And I still don't know who I'm going to vote for. I think who's in my 5 or 6, but I have not yet made up my mind. C.J. Stroud was fantastic, threw for 400 whatever yards in the loss to Michigan, but it was a loss. Bryce Young had end up with 320 yards or so, and of course a 97-yard drive. And yet again, for about 3 quarters, they were dead in the water. Jalen Davis, right, plays for the best team in the country. Is he their best player?
It's really hard to say. I mean, he's been the one
Jordan Davis,
you notice the most. Look, the Hutchinson from Michigan, if you're going to talk about Davis, also kind of has to be in that discussion too. I think Aiden Hutchinson. I think Aiden Hutchinson, if you want to ask me who Michigan's best player is, that's the guy. I think Michigan's 4 or 5 best players might be on defense, and that's no offense to anybody in their offense, but their defense was really, really good. And So, yeah, Aiden Hutchinson, I think, has to be in that discussion. This is a year I saw Max Olson tweet about this, saying, like, look, if you give me a reason why anyone should be on the Heisman ballot, I'll listen, because
me too.
It's not it's not clear cut.
You know how we get emails because we're on AP or all one of these teams that we announced and on the Bolitnikoff and all that stuff as well. But I haven't heard anything from anybody when it comes to the Heisman Trophy.
You know what I almost would do if I were you? I would just go back through those emails, all the Maxwell, Bolitnikoff, all that stuff, take the finalists on that and compare them, because you start getting into the weeds of like, okay, what should I do here? What should I do there? I mean, Kenny Pickett needs to be on the list for sure.
Well, I saw RG3 tweet this out. His is 8, and we want to go back to the calls and text. He has Bryce Young, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, C.J. Stroud, Kenneth Walker, Sam Hartman from Wake Forest, Abram Smith, running back from Baylor, and then Jordan Davis, the defensive lineman from Georgia. All right, 254-339, and that's not his vote. That's just for today. That's who he has 1 through 8. He does that each week.
Oh, and in Virginia, you are on the Bet US caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I was just wanting to know, with this crazy coaching carousel, who do you think is going to be the next coach to be hired, or who's going to be the next school to hire the head coach? Either one. And Smokey, personal preference for Heisman vote, I'd go with the defensive lineman. I'm kind of tired of seeing a lot of offensive guys in the Heisman become a kind of a high offensive trophy. I'd like to see a defensive lineman get in there and get it, because I think those linemen work harder than some of those other people on the team. So that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, what do you guys think about the next coach to be hired, or the next?
Notre Dame or Oklahoma?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Oklahoma. I think they'll be before Notre Dame. And on your second question, I feel the same way about defensive players winning the Heisman as I do. I'm very passionate about it. I thought Ndamukong Suh was the best player of the year that he did not win the Heisman. I thought he was the best player in the country. And the award, and Smokey, you're a voter, you know this when you sign up, it does not say the best quarterback, running back, or wide receiver. And wide receiver has been neglected very largely in the award over the years. Even, Devontae Smith and Desmond Howard are the last two, But and those are almost 30 years apart. So I think it needs to. It's the same way I feel about the Academy Awards and comedy movies. Look, I'll tell you this. It's really easy to play a sad guy and be like dramatic and all that. It's hard to do something and get laughs consistently. Like, I'll tell you, The Hangover is a much better movie than Philadelphia. Bottom line. But Philadelphia has made way more awards. And it's kind of the same thing with defensive linemen and linebackers and all that. Like, it's just as hard, if not harder, to be a defensive player and really show elite stuff, because a lot of what you're doing isn't statistically as sexy as, 1,000 rushing yards.
Yeah, I'm looking at Jordan. I agree with a lot what you're saying, and Ndamukong Suh had an incredible senior year. Jordan Davis has 24 tackles, 3.5 tackles for losses, 2 sacks, and has 9 quarterback pressures. There are players on his team that have better stats across the board. And probably because he's getting double teamed. So, and I will take my time on that. I don't have to vote until I think sometime late Sunday or possibly on Monday. Craig Smoak joins us as well. One of the stories you asked us, Owen, about which job is filled first, Oklahoma and or Notre Dame. And I've been on the phone a little bit with a couple of people, those who cover Oklahoma, also a couple of others. And one of the things that's out there with a lot of smoke doesn't mean it's a fire. But smoke was, I talked to one of the guys that runs Soonerscoop.com, and they were talking about Matt Rule to Oklahoma. So that's one of the ones that's getting a lot of attention. That's, okay.
It's already been shot.
It's not happening. And I would know for sure that it's not happening. Go ahead, Craig.
It's already been shot down. I mean, Feldman already followed that up in the last 20 minutes as I was making my way over here. He mentioned it, which means that an agent probably reached out to him to float it. And, I think it's already been, debunked. So, yeah, Matt Rule's not looking like he's going to be the next guy. I hesitate with these NFL guys, especially with Tomlin's response, and I know Matt Rule's in a different situation than Mike Tomlin. And I know that his contract might not be as ironclad or whatever as it appeared to be when he signed it. But, I don't see Matt Rule jumping it from the NFL back to college while he has the gig that he has. It just doesn't make any sense. And I know, like, oh, well, he might be fired soon or whatever, but until he is, I don't know why you take yourself out of that NFL mix if you still have time to try and turn it around. And, I'm not saying he's going to be a successful NFL head coach, because there are certainly a lot of things that Panthers fans have rights to complain about, but he has been dealt some, bad hands with the McCaffrey injury and the quarterback turnstile. So, we'll see, but I don't think it's going to be Matt Rule. And I think, one thing that has become very clear in coaching searches is it's not the guy who's being talked about the most. When is it the guy that's being how much were we talking about Brian Kelly before LSU?
Not much.
How much were we talking about Dave Aranda with Baylor back in the day? Was he the guy that was the hot candidate? Not at
really,
all.
yeah.
Matt Rule wasn't the hot candidate at all. He was completely out of nowhere. He had like 2 passing mentions maybe in articles, like 5, 6 behind Sonny Dykes and Chad Morris, right? Mm-hmm. And then it was Matt Rule, and you're like, whoa. And then the second time around is, Sonny Dykes and same kind of guys. And then, boom, here's Dave Aranda. It's like, whoa. So I think, there's a lot of smoke about Matt Rule. I think, like I said, that's already been debunked. But even if it hadn't been debunked, there's too much smoke around him that tells me that it's not him. That tells me that it is somebody else. So, yeah, that would have been interesting. And I saw a lot of Sooners fans who were very 50-50 on that idea. Some that really appreciated what he did at Baylor and that think he's a good coach, a great motivator and all that. And then there were some that were like, wait a second, that's the guy that blew a 28-3 lead in the Big 12 championship game, So, yeah, it's interesting, man. But that Matt Rule stuff was fun to at least kind of, stoke the waters a little bit.
Well, I talked to David Newton. I was getting ready to say that. David Newton covers the Carolina Panthers. I said, David, you know that Matt Rule's name is all over Soonerscoop.com. He said, that's interesting, David, because he's talked to Matt. He gets to see him, talks to him off the record as well. I will just tell you this, that I was told he's not going anywhere. And I don't think anyone has a better source than I do. And I'll just leave it at that. Now, we also have been told that there are other coaches that don't move around. And Matt Rule has looked around when he's been with Temple and when he's been at Baylor. And I don't know what he's thinking about with Carolina. It's a bye week for Carolina. That also leads then to, okay, where is he at? What's he doing? Well, it's a bye week. They're 5-7. I think that's their record. They are trying to turn it around. It's been a tough year. It's been a roller coaster. It's kind of like year 2 at Baylor. Remember, they had the bad loss to TCU and then came back, beat Tech, made a bowl game and won it. So that, unless the source that I have, which I think it's about as good as it gets, he's not going to be at Oklahoma, and that might disappoint some Oklahoma fans. Some of you, by the way, on the chat room are telling me that Matt Rule's happening. Some of you are telling me that my sources are completely stupid or wrong or not very good, and that's fine. We'll see what happens, and I don't care who gets the job at Oklahoma. I just hope they can fill it quickly so they can somehow get their football season and team and program back together.
Yeah, I would actually take you over Feldman's sources, and Feldman said 1 hour ago, have seen some speculation about Matt Rule to OU, was told that is not happening. And I would still trust your sources over Bruce Feldman. So, if you want to still believe that it's him, by all means, look, in a coaching carousel, in a coaching job, you never say never, and you never believe quite everything that's going on. And if you do, you believe half of it. So, if you want to still think that there's like a 0.001 chance and that's going to turn into a much larger percentage, then by all means, but I'm not banking on it right now at all. I think it's going to be somebody else.
And look, just my personal interaction with Matt Rule when he was here, I just don't see him as a guy who leaves something in midstream unless he's forced to, and that would be the NFL thing. And you leave after a year and a half, and Oklahoma's a great job, but is it better than the NFL job? I don't know.
No, it's not. There's you can argue that there's college jobs that are better, like perks-wise, but in terms of top-level head coaching gig, there's 32 jobs, and there's no college coaching job that touches an NFL job.
And everybody has this thought because of Nick Saban went from the Dolphins to Alabama on his own accord. Now, that is not a good thing to do. When one thing happens, you say it's going to happen a bunch, but it's only really happened that one time where Nick Saban willfully went back into college. And the reason he did that, he finally said this year, was, look, I thought we were going to sign Drew Brees. We didn't. Pissed me off. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go take the Alabama job where I have more control over these kind of things. So we did that. And it was the Alabama job. It was the cathedral job of college football. Oklahoma's close to that as far as prestige and all that. But again, Matt Rule does not have that same situation where I haven't seen anything that's happened in Carolina the last year and a half that he's said, let's go do this, and they've told him no. So,
yeah, in fact, there's probably a lot of Panthers fans that wish he would do more of that and go do more. I mean, honestly, they're kind of upset right now just with the way the team is playing and kind of the progress that's been made. And I haven't watched enough Carolina, week by week to get the whole feel for the picture, but I just know what I've read. So, I think, obviously if a USC or an Alabama or an Oklahoma or whatever come talk to you, you got to listen if you're an NFL head coach. But ultimately, unless you're, like the Saban situation, if he got Drew Brees, he was not going to Alabama, right? He was going to stay with the Dolphins and coach out with Drew Brees. But because he missed out on Drew Brees, it leads him to go, well, we don't have a quarterback. We are screwed. I'm going to get out of here while I can. And that was that situation. So, yeah, where else do they look? Who's the names that aren't being mentioned? We got Venables, we got Rule, and there's a couple of others. Dan Lanning from Georgia. But there's got to be somebody we're not thinking of. I guarantee there's somebody we're not thinking of. Now, I'm not saying that person's probably the next head coach, and it's going to be some shocker because it could be one of those guys, but I have to imagine there's somebody that's not being mentioned all that much that it's probably in the running as well.
Well, I know that when I spoke to Kerry Murdoch at Soonerscoop.com, he was talking about one of the stories. He said it's not when, but if. It's not if, but when on Matt Rule. And I've done my due diligence. I've made my phone calls to a guy that covers Carolina and maybe somebody else that would be right in the middle of that mix of who would know. And so I'm going to leave it at that. Now, interesting thing happened last night, Paul, and then we'll get to the calls. I'm not sure how many people, and I was hoping to get an Oklahoma writer on, but they're on like what are they on? The white smoke to come out of the papal. What is it called, Paul? The white smoke that comes out when they have a pope.
It's just
white smoke comes out when they have a new pope. It's no catchy term for it, I don't think.
Yeah, can you not come up with something better as a Catholic family? Can you come up with it's a white smoke.
Jack, there's nothing. There's no name for it. It's just the smoke.
So I was hoping to get them on, but they're waiting for that white poof of smoke. Roy Manning, defensive backs coach at Oklahoma. This was going on last night, and I still don't know if I've been able to grab onto this or not. He was doing in-home recruiting with Bob Stoops while recruiting and communicating with Damani Jackson, who's a five-star stud, on behalf of apparently this sounds like Oklahoma. He's working for OU. And a report says he was recruiting Jackson for Southern Cal. He's not a part of Lincoln Riley's staff that was announced. Fully employed at Oklahoma. When that came up, Oklahoma's compliance Twitter feed had those eyes, not the bulging eyes, but those two eyes like,
no, that is the bulging eyes.
That's
the Lincoln Riley emoji. That's what he always used whenever they got a new commit. He would always put out just a tweet with those eyes. And that meant that a new commit was in, and then you'd wait to see who it was. So because this involves Lincoln Riley, it was very funny on their part to put the bulging eyes emoji that he used to use all the time and then put a 100 next to it as almost to say, like, okay, we're on this. But, yeah, Roy Manning is – I don't know if he's come out and said anything since then or what, but, he's apparently doing double duty based on what has been said by recruits. And – I do see a way around this for OU is for the recruit that said that he was going to be talking to Roy Manning soon as a member of the USC staff could say, oh, well, I got him confused for somebody else. Now, that could be somewhat problematic, but that would be my way out of it if I was USC. He's like, oh, no, he meant Dennis Simmons is who he meant. But if this kid knows these coaches, then how he explains that, I don't know. But, yeah, something funky is going on because you had Xavier Bryce who was saying, I would like to thank Coach Bob Stoops and Coach Roy and Coach Gundy for coming by the home today. So, Roy Manning was with, Cale Gundy, who's been a top OU assistant for a long time, and he was with Bob Stoops, who's out on the recruiting. That's so crazy that Bob Stoops is out on the recruiting trail, but he's with them. And then Damani Jackson, who is a USC recruit, he's talking to 24/7. He said that Riley's blowing up his phone. And then this is when Riley says he wants to send in Alex Grinch, who's the defensive coordinator now at USC, and then he'll come in later. He said, I've heard from Coach Grinch too, and also Roy Manning, who was the DB coach at OU. I've been texting back and forth with Coach Manning and looking forward to meeting those guys in person. So he said that, and that's when everybody's like, well, wait a second. So Roy Manning's with Stoops and Gundy, the top two guys in the program out recruiting, and yet meanwhile, here's this kid getting recruited by USC, and Lincoln Riley's telling him that Roy Manning's going to be in touch because he's so Yeah, I mean, even saying, well, I thought it was somebody else doesn't quite explain that all the way, and that's very interesting.
I'll tell you this. If Roy Manning was going to be the DB's coach at USC, he's not now because Lincoln Riley can't – I mean, he might be able to and just say, damn the torpedoes, but that would be one of those things where it's like, no, sorry.
We have a guest today. We'll talk Virginia Tech with their brand-new hire, David Teal from Richmond Times-Dispatch. Also, we have guests that will be on the day to talk about some other program. Ricky Thompson on Baylor. We'll check in Notre Dame with Brian Driscoll on their coaching search. He'll join us at 4 o'clock. And also today, again, Dave Bartu will rapid fire on the college football ratings and rankings, whatever you want to call it, in the late 4 o'clock hour. Paul?
All right, let's go to Matt in D.C. You're on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys. I'll be real quick. Before I get to the Big 12 championship, I just want to say, hey, I'm pumped for the new 2022 schedule coming out. My one thing I wish the Morgantown game wasn't on a Thursday night because you can already – I'm not going to say it's going to be – we already know how hard it's going to play there on Thursday night. But, hey, also with the Big 12, start with rivalry week, as in Baylor, TCU, Texas, Texas Tech, Kansas, Kansas State, and Bedlam. Start there when you're making your schedule, then work backwards. The whole last week of the season should all be rivalry. So that's my rant on that. But, hey, excited for the new schedule coming out. For the Big 12 championship game, we're back where we need to be. I think that's back to the standard this Big 12 team needs to know that, hey, this is it. This is the standard, at least the conference championship. So, hey, win the game. I think the keys are going to be getting 2 picks off Sanders, score off 1. And if we get past the 30, we got to get field goals because I think it may come down to field goals with this defense. See you all at the game. Thank you all.
Thank you, Matt. Great to hear from you, man.
I agree. I mean, I would love to talk about the schedule as well. That schedule next year, I mean, they had a really rosy schedule this season with all the home games that they had. But next year, I mean, you're going to Provo in week 2. You're going to Ames in week 4. You're going to Austin. You're going to Lubbock. You're going to Norman.
Yep.
It's gonna be a tough one. But in terms of Baylor, I mean, you're absolutely right. If they get 3 picks off Spencer Sanders like they did the last time, they have to manage more than 0 points, which is what they managed the last time. And you lose by 4.
That's not good, is it?
You lose by 4 in a game where you had 3 interceptions that got you 0 points. That's not going to get done. If you score a touchdown on 1 drive, you win the game, or you even kick a field goal on each of those, or kick two field goals on 2 of those interceptions, you win. So I'm with you, man. I think there's been other games like Oklahoma where Dave Aranda let it be known very early on, and I just really love the way he X's and O's and he breaks down games and breaks down strategy, and just how insightful and thorough he is. But he said in that OU game, field goals aren't going to win this game for us. Like, we know we have to go down and score touchdowns against Oklahoma. Against Oklahoma State, I think it is about kicking some field goals when you have the opportunity, because I think it's just getting whatever points that you can get, because they're not the type of offense that you're expecting to put up 40 on you, right? I mean, they're not an offense that's going to be flying up and down the field typically. That's not who they are. They're a little hit or miss offensively, quite frankly. They can score, but they can also go into a rut where Spencer Sanders throws 3 interceptions and, they're not running the ball well. So I think any points you can get are going to be important. I'm right there with you on field goals. I think those are going to be very key this weekend. Get what you can.
All right, by the way, I want to mention something with the schedule. Baylor's playing Texas in what could very well be Texas's last Big 12 game.
In the back, yeah, absolutely.
Could be,
yeah.
Could
because
be.
of what, at least it appears, the summer of 2023, although who knows what happens. Let's take one more call, then we break, and then a short segment to get a couple of other stories in, and then we will hear from David Teal on Virginia Tech's new head coach.
Let's go to Memphis, Tennessee, and Coleman. You're on the BetUS caller line.
What's up, my guys?
What up?
What's up, man?
Good to be back. May I pontificate for just a second? I got a couple things. I know that's a yes. It's a radio show. A couple things. I still think Brent Venables is going to be the guy at OU. And I know this probably isn't going to happen, and I don't want it to happen, but why has no one thrown out Jeff Grimes' name as an OU coach? Great offensive coordinator, turned around Baylor. Seems like he could be a fit, OU, an offensive school. So that's my first thing. That might be all y'all have time for, but that's the first thought. I have one more.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the other thing I want to pontificate about is Papa always told me, when a bully hits you in the mouth, you can punch them back. You don't punch them before. Now, when Texas and OU, which I love Texas, when they reached out to to Greg Sankey, he had to take it. Don't blame him. But I don't get why the Big 12 went and got BYU, and now we have to get Boise State if they expand. Why would you not just punch the bully back in the mouth and say, we're going straight for you, and we'll get big city schools and have you compete with that? So get Memphis, SMU, Tulane, USF, we'll pair good with UCF, and UAB, and say we're coming right back at you, and we're going to be able to recruit to these big cities.
Well, Coleman,
young people.
Well, you name some of the teams that are coming in phase 2 whenever they finally get that unlocked and done with Memphis and SMU and USF. There's 3 of them right there. So appreciate the call, man. We appreciate that.
We've talked about that, and there hasn't been a lot of traction on that really over the last month. And, there's still things bubbling. But, it looks like that's what they're trying to do. It looks like that's exactly what they're trying to do. Now, they're not going to hit all those markets that you said, like UAB, for example. I'm sure, though, I would love to hear Bob Bowlesby, like, when everything is settled, like, talk about the expansion and, like, actually talk and say, like, hey, Bob, like UAB, what were your thoughts there? Did you even consider them, or did you just say, ultimately others were better? I would love to hear that kind of detail, because I don't think we ever hear stuff like that kind of stuff. But yeah, a couple of those programs you mentioned, they're going to have Houston. We already know that's guaranteed. BYU gives them a little bit more of just the western side of the country and a unique market. With that fan base.
With a huge fan base, national fan base.
But yeah, USF, that they look like they're going to be a part of phase 2. SMU and Dallas look like they'll be a part of phase 2 and so on. So yeah, not quite all those teams you mentioned, but most of them. And so, maybe not going to scare the SEC right away, but I do think you look around the new Big 12 and you got to love what you see, with Cincinnati and Baylor and Oklahoma State and Houston. I saw somebody had the tweet of, there's 2 Big 12 championship games this weekend. There's the present schools, and then there's the new schools that are having their own Big 12 championship. So I think that looks great on the conference for Houston and Cincy to be doing what they're doing. And as far as the OU side of things and Brent Venables, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think he'd be a good coach. But, dude, you are on the money. Why is nobody talking about Jeff Grimes? I'm not saying he's ready for the LSU job or anything, but if I'm some of these maybe other schools that aren't the blue bloods per se, I'm looking at Jeff Grimes long and hard and seeing what the possibilities may be there, and maybe it's too soon for that, but that's coming. That's got to be coming sometime soon. And if they go out and they have a big day against Oklahoma State, which I'm not expecting, but if they were to, that's a showcase for you to say look. And we've been doing this all year long. And look, we're not even doing it with our starting quarterback. Well, and so I'm with you, man. I think Grimes is a name that does not get mentioned enough.
I'll throw Louisiana out there as an open job where Jeff Grimes, if he wants to show he can be a head coach, or you could do what Dan Lanning is doing at Georgia and what Billy Napier did at Louisiana as the head coach. And look, he's the head coach at Louisiana, but he could have taken 7 other jobs before he took Florida. He was waiting for Florida or that level to open. And Jeff Grimes, Dan Lanning might be waiting for kind of the same thing.
Well, a couple of them are open. Notre Dame and Oklahoma, and before that, LSU and USC.
He's a name you got to keep on that list, though, of the next wave of guys.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I don't know. We don't get to see Jeff as much. I've seen him a couple of times in the hallways when I'm fortunate to talk to Dave Aranda, but don't get a chance to really visit with him. I think there's about 4 or 5 future head coaches, or could be, on that staff right now. Ron Roberts was. And obviously there's Mateos, and there's Grimes, and I think Sean Bell at some point when he gets more skins on the wall, and Juice Johnson, and I keep going, and maybe
Stuckey,
maybe a few others. Yeah.
I guess,
all right. When we come back, a quick segment, a couple of notes. We'll read a couple of your text messages. At 3:45, David Till on Virginia Tech's new hire, Notre Dame. What's going to happen? Brian Driscoll, the Irish reporter for Notre Dame, will join us on that. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, kind of the same message, quite frankly. You need to get on it if you want a new car or truck, because they have been hard to come by. And so to get on it, that means you need to contact Richard Carr right now and get on their inbound vehicle list, so that way you can assure that you get your car or truck when they arrive before anybody else. These supply chain challenges have been a headache for dealerships all across the country. It's been hard to find brand new cars or trucks. So get on that inbound vehicle list, and you can drive a new car or truck sooner at Richard Carr. If you need a pickup, check out the Sierras from Richard Carr. You got power, strength, refinement, and luxury. Sierra's one of the best trucks on the road. If you're looking at SUVs, they've got the full lineup of Buicks, offering size and versatility and matches for any type of lifestyle. Or maybe you're looking for something a little more sophisticated, a little more luxurious. We'll check out the line of Cadillacs like the XT6 or the Escalade. Whatever you're looking for, when it comes to new cars, get your name on that inbound vehicle list at Richard Carr to get it before anyone else. But if you are looking to save and drive today, you're not looking to buy new, you're just looking to buy, well, they are also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them go through a 172-point inspection. And while dozens of other lenders may say no, Richard Carr is always looking to say yes. 100% credit approval is always their goal. So go online or come by for a test drive today. And if you are listening to us or living in the greater Waco area in Central Texas, well, Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership. So give Richard Carr Motors a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Richard Carr Motors, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
Black Friday. It gets all the attention, but what about Truck Friday? Jay here from Pickup Outfitters, and we say enough is enough. Cologne for Christmas? What, do you want to smell nice when you hit a deer? I'll take a grill guard for $100 off instead. If your wife is thinking about getting you some slippers for Christmas because your feet look cute with bunny ears, you better put the brakes on that and send her to Pickup Outfitters. We got a truckload of specials for Truck Friday. Free installation on all bed covers purchased at Pickup Outfitters. Hard folding bed covers as low as $8.99. $300 off ranch hand front bumpers. $150 off ranch hand rear bumpers. $100 off any ranch hand or Frontier grill guard. $50 off any toolbox. $100 off RKI heavy duty toolboxes. A complete list of specials is in our showroom. Truck Friday is 8 days only from Friday, November 26th through Saturday, December 4th. Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco. On the web at createacommotion.com/Truck Friday.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
All right, we have a short segment here. David Teal will join us on Virginia Tech.
Got a small Tom Herman note if you want one.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah, his name has not been brought up hardly at all during all of this.
No, I mean, Paul and me both talked about him when the carousel started to get underway, and I was saying, he's in the NFL now, but he'd be somebody I think that, as far as a guy who's not currently in the game that could come back, who's got some skins on the wall, and, those were few and far between at Texas, quite frankly, during his run there. But I don't think he's like some damaged coach that can't suddenly coach at all or never be successful in college football again. And quite frankly, the way they're mowing through coaches, I mean, at some point it's going to come back around to a guy like him. But like I said, Paul and I kind of brought him up a couple weeks back, but Andy Staples put out, and granted, it's a coach, so you never know. I'm sure if LSU, if it were still open, came calling and said, hey, we'll offer you the same deal we offered Brian Kelly, Tom Herman's tune would change. But as of now, Andy Staples said, talk to Tom Herman today regarding rumors surrounding his name being mentioned for possible college head coaching and or coordinator positions, because that's another thing. He's been rumored for a lot of staffs as well. He told me he's happy in the NFL and that his preference is to remain in that league. So take that for what you want.
I actually think that he might be better suited to it.
Could be.
Because he's a very, very intelligent guy. We know all the Mensa stuff about Tom Herman.
He was Dave Aranda's roommate. I still can't get over that, dude.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I don't know.
What was that like on a Friday night
They
at 2
talk
a.m.?
to each other without saying words.
Yeah, but for me, Tom Herman would be a guy to use that intellect in breaking down stuff in the NFL, because when you have that, because you did get the vibe from him that you were always, everything he had to do was just in the way of doing what he wanted to do. In the NFL, you don't really have to do that. You just go in and you coach. You don't have to recruit. You don't have to. Yeah, you have to deal with the media, but it's not really nearly as bad as it would be in college. It's much more. Everything's in a box in the NFL, and I don't think that, especially, there's no boosters in the NFL. The great thing about working for an NFL team is you have one booster. It's your boss, the owner. He's the only booster. The fans don't really matter, just your boss, the booster, the owner of the team. So there's not 30 of them. At Texas, there's 30 owners of that team.
I think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, that's fine, but I think the fact that the spotlight is not on the coaches in the NFL nearly as much as it is in college might be a good thing for Tom Herman. Because I think with the spotlight on him, you see the goofy Missouri celebration, during the bowl game. And, you may have, I don't know, he definitely got... He's definitely a bit too full of himself. There's no doubt about that. And he definitely was a little bit too goofy at times, I feel like, especially that whole Missouri thing. But yeah, he's a guy he's definitely a good football coach. So I think that, certainly that would be somebody in future jobs open up that you'd at least take a look at. But I totally get him wanting to stay in the NFL if that's the case.
Yeah, you just never know. Sometimes you end up somewhere where you didn't think you would be, and then you end up, man, this isn't bad at all. In fact, this is kind of what I like.
Yeah.
And that could be with him, and who knows, you might end up being very successful. Hey, one thing in men's basketball, I don't know if you saw this or not, Duke beat Gonzaga, but last night Ohio State beat Duke.
Yep.
And so we've now seen Gonzaga go down, we've seen Kansas go down, and we just saw Duke go down. Now, there are a lot of teams, good teams are playing each other. So that shakes up the top. And Baylor right at number 4. They're just kind of slowly. Yep, yeah, you're right, Jack. Purdue is right there at number 2 and appears to be very strong. But eventually, of course, everybody will lose multiple games.
You know why Jack wore that shirt today? You knew Purdue beat the pants off last night.
Not really.
FSU.
All right, we're now joined by David Till, Richmond Times-Dispatch. David was on with us when Virginia Tech had their coaching change. And he said, hey, make sure you get back with me, in fact, when they replace it. So David, what's been the reaction from Hokies fans on their new hire?
Well, I think the more they learn about Brent Pry's Hokies roots and his time in Blacksburg as a graduate assistant, his time just up the road at Lexington, Virginia High School, where he was a standout quarterback and defensive back, and his father was the offensive coordinator at VMI. And the more they learn about how effectively he recruited Virginia for Penn State, the more they like.
He was off the radar for most of the country, and I think that's probably, especially given what we see here with Mack Rhoades at Baylor, he's made 2 football coaching hires. Both of them came kind of out of the blue. Is that how Whit Babcock likes to operate? Is, look, you might say Jamie Chadwell or Tom Herman or anybody else could be a fit for this job, but he's got his own list, and he's operating in the shadows on it.
Well, in this particular case, he did, much like he did with his first basketball hire at Virginia Tech. No one saw Buzz Williams coming to Blacksburg from Marquette, but he did. Now, with the Justin Fuente hire, he was on everybody's initial, all the media thought when Frank Beamer retired, okay, Justin Fuente's killing it at Memphis with Paxton Lynch. He's ready to move up to the Power 5. So we'll mention him, and he turned out to be the choice. But this is certainly the second Virginia Tech hire that Whit Babcock has made that has been under the radar. And when he was at Cincinnati, no one saw him getting Tommy Tuberville from Texas Tech. Now, that hire didn't work out very well, but it was certainly under the radar.
So what has been some of the response that you've been able to gather? How much has he been able to already kind of, ingratiate himself and the players talked much about it? What kind of you gathered on the program front?
Well, he didn't arrive in Blacksburg until this afternoon. So we're very much in the infancy. I don't even know if he has met with the team as of yet. His introductory press conference is at 9 a.m. tomorrow, so we'll learn more specifics then.
Let me ask you this, David. We've seen the story with Lincoln Riley leaving, and then all of a sudden a bunch of players from Oklahoma, they entered the transfer portal. Some of them probably will end up at USC, losing commitments and whatever else. I really haven't seen much when it comes to Virginia Tech. Have they lost anybody to the portal, and have they also been hurt yet with anybody decommitting?
No decommitments that we know of, and they had one hit the portal today, backup quarterback Knox Kadum, certainly not a marquee name, but he knew that his future was going to be as a reserve at Virginia Tech, and I believe he would have hit the portal had there not been a coaching transition. So nothing yet, but you never know. It's very early. And the portal sometimes really picks up after spring ball. So there's never really a downtime with player upheaval.
For Virginia Tech, and I mean this could go for any team in the ACC right now. I know Clemson is 9-3, and that's not necessarily a cause to throw dirt on them because their reign is over. But the ACC is fairly wide open right now. So how big was it to get a coach that they knew could hit the ground running and own their recruiting territory right away? Because it could be a year or two before you're contending again for the Big 12 title or the ACC title.
Well, Virginia Tech should contend for the ACC title in most seasons, guys. You look at the Coastal Division. Virginia Tech and Miami are the two primary football-minded institutions. You can talk about North Carolina and Mack Brown and all the recruiting he's done. Tar Heels were 6-6 this season, just like Virginia Tech. Tar Heels haven't won the ACC since 1981. That's a long time. Virginia Tech won it 4 times in its first 7 seasons in the league. Miami is in complete disarray, and some would argue has been for decades. The Hurricanes haven't won an ACC championship. Remember when they joined the league in 2004? oh, it's going to be Miami and Florida State every year in the ACC championship game. Miami's been to one ACC championship game. I would argue that Virginia Tech is the best coaching job in the Coastal Division.
It certainly feels like people have kind of forgotten over the last couple of years of just what a good job that is for whatever reason. But in terms of coming in and getting to work, and you know, there's going to be a lot of press conferences and meeting the players and doing all that. He's a defensive guy, so you know that's a sign right there of the direction they want to go. But what is, you know, at the top of the list, in your opinion, as far as Virginia Tech and moving forward, and the kind of immediate things or the biggest to-dos on the list for Brent Pry?
Well, flip the script. He's a defensive guy. What's he going to do on the offensive side? What's he going to do with his offensive coordinator and the rest of that staff? I think that's what we're all waiting to see. And that will go a long way toward telling us what this team will look like in the fall and in seasons beyond.
You know, David, you've been doing this for a while, and you've seen the landscape of college football from really, if you want to, you know, back in the days of the transfer portal first erupted, and then the early signing period. But have you seen anything with what even the last 48 to 72 hours have been like? The blue bloods that have openings, and then blue bloods have openings again because they go to other blue bloods, or just this mass amount of, it seems like, every day there's a knockout punch with some sort of story. What, as a guy that's been around like I have for a while, your thoughts about what we're watching?
Never seen anything like it, and it's enough to give you whiplash.
Yeah,
it's true. Your neck is turned one way, and then you refresh Twitter, and it's like, oh wait, what? Lincoln Riley's going where? Brian Kelly's going where? And the sum total of it is you have 6 past national champions that have changed coaches in this cycle. Florida and LSU and Washington and Notre Dame and Oklahoma and Southern California. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are arguably 7 of the top 15 jobs in the country turning over in the same offseason. It's patently insane.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your time. I appreciate you've been on with us on many things. Coastal Carolina, obviously, with Virginia Tech when the opening hit, and now this one as well, now that they have Coach Pry. Pry, excuse me. Thanks for your time. And we'll hopefully be able to talk about like X's and O's in games here pretty soon. Thank you, buddy.
Yep, thank you.
David Teal, Richmond Times-Dispatch. Been a good dude. You know, I've enjoyed... You know, and we went over that nice subscriber number of 15,000 and all that. But I'll tell you this, what really has been a lot of fun is we've had writers on forever. But we have now been able to, because of the growth of this show, because of the fan base, you, the listeners, and where you're from, have been able to get in touch with some great people who understand their particular programs they cover. Yeah,
and not just it I mean, not to say that this is what we did, but, you know, like some just have somebody on to have somebody on. Mm-hmm. Just to simply kill time. Just to, hey, here's a segment. This is how we'll get through this hour. And, no, I think with a lot of these analysts that we've had on, because we've been able to take more of a concerted focus on college football, even though we'll dabble in some other stuff, is, you know, it's been very enlightening to actually like sit and listen and hear and, you know, really get into the depths of program. And I don't know, I didn't really like my questions in that interview, quite honestly, because it is so soon for Pry to be announced to even kind of have a makeup, you know, of what he wants to do so far. But I mean, I just don't really know what else to ask other than he's there and he's a defensive guy and he's got a great track record going back a long ways with Penn State, obviously, over these last several years, and James Franklin, and he's got Vatech ties. I like the Hokies program. I always loved watching them growing up with Beamer. Always loved, you know, just the atmosphere and just there was just something that was a little different about them versus a lot of the other, you know, big premier programs. They were a premier program, but not accepted all the way like a Miami or a Florida State. They were like that one level right below that, and I always appreciated that about them because they were kind of, you know, a team that could upset the apple cart on occasion, and plus, you know, Michael Vick, and they were just so fun to watch. Man, so I'm rooting for the Hokies to matter and to matter in a big way in the ACC. They really were good, and we remember Mike Dewey. Yeah, Mike Dewey, who's a Baylor fan. He has a construction, kind of renovation business. He's been a couple of the brand names and then or corporate businesses around Waco.
restoration businesses, and now he's got kind of his own. When Baylor was playing at Floyd Casey, and yes, it was normally an empty shell. And if it was packed, it was because Nebraska was in town or Texas A&M, and that's just the way it was, it's being honest. And then he had a dream. They didn't really have tailgating. They had more of a country club setting. And he started to talk to Baylor about trying to set up what would be like where people could relax, let their hair down, and maybe drink a beer, which, of course, that was kind of verboten and all that. He is the one that needs to get credit for turning the last few years of Floyd Casey, and yes, winning made a difference too, into a fun atmosphere. I'll never forget this. We were doing a show, and I saw this kid walking across through a lot of the white tents, the corporate tents, the alums and donors and all that, with a case of Budweiser, just walking right across through everything. Now, you may think that's no big deal, but at the time I was like, damn, they've arrived, because that was something you thought you'd never see. And that he and his girlfriend walking right through everybody with a case of Budweiser, I was like, damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
he might have been 18.
There's a lot of people going like, what's the big deal?
No, because
like,
it was nothing.
Believe me, it was
nothing.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, for those that don't know, yeah, there wasn't much of a scene. Even when I first got here, and that was right after RG3's Heisman run, and they had not, like, the first year I got here was the year they won the Big 12 for the first time. So you're welcome. But no.
They've never won a Big 12 title without Craig Smoak covering the Bears.
No, you know. Well, there's also been some other downfalls as well, so it's not like it's been batting 1,000. But, yeah, I mean, I've seen it grow immensely, and I think that I think Dave Aranda, what's been really interesting is the way people are embracing him. You know, there was a lot of people that were hesitant to wrap their arms around Matt Rule, and part of it was just the silly, like, he's a Northerner, which I just think is the dumbest thing, honestly. And there were some people that just felt like he was a car salesman, and you know what? He's got some of that to him. I mean, he definitely has some of that to him, but he's also a good football coach, and I think he proved that over the long haul. They just never wrapped their arms around him because there was always a threat of him leaving. Always a threat of him leaving. Even after 1-11, he was, you know, rumored to be talking to the New York Jets or whatever. And you're like, what? You won one game. You're already looking at the NFL. And I just think that kind of set a bad tone early to where people wanted to be more excited than they really were, but they never could quite fully go to that level because they were afraid the shoe was going to drop as soon as they did. I think with Dave Aranda, there's still a little bit of that because there's just that PTSD factor. But I do feel like there's way more of an embracing of Dave Aranda and what he is, who he is, and what he can build. And I think there's just a really big belief growing in him. And I know that could all get swiped away with one phone call, but yeah, for now, I think that this is the most content the fan base has been in quite some time with their head football coach.
I know that you know, as long as Oklahoma and Notre Dame are still open, and I don't think Notre Dame is you know, Aranda's in that group, but as long as Oklahoma's still open, there's going to be fans that are nervous. But if you look at what happened, USC and LSU were the ones that people talked about the most because his connections.
He's from Southern Cal. He coached at LSU.
Yeah, and they both went dinosaur hunting. I mean, they went and roped in T-Rexes. I mean, like brontosauruses. That's what they wanted. Big, gigantic. You know, LSU won the press conference today. USC won the press conference. USC probably won a lot more than that with Lincoln Riley. And we'll see. I think Brian Kelly's a very good hire at LSU as well. But, you know, they went out and they really swung big. And Dave Aranda's only been a head coach for 2 years now. Yeah. And so that's not necessarily – it might be a great hire because it's a great hire here. But what those guys' mission was also – to knock the world on its ass, which they did. And Dave Aranda, I mean, that makes you look really smart maybe, but it's not the holy cow.
Yeah, no, his personality has definitely grown this year. I don't think there's any doubt.
Yeah.
Like, he's showing a lot more of his personality and his humor and, you know, children's books and things like that. But, no, you're right. He's not going to be the guy that goes – you hear his name and you go, whoa. Yeah. Like, I mean, and you might initially, but I think another part of it, too, is there's still some questions about his recruiting prowess, you know, and how well they do there. And what is the one thing you hear a lot of is Oklahoma. We got to have a big recruiter. We got to have, like, that. And he's not quite that guy, at least not right now. But, man, he's the guy for the job here for now and forever, as far as a lot of people are concerned.
For those in the premium section, and if you're not a part of the premium section, we'd love for you to join and even say that you're joining because of whoever we are on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. They put up the interview I had with him earlier this week, the one-on-one. They put up some of the quotes from him as well. And people, you should see the reactions. They are to the point. Last year, who is this guy? He's not got enough emotion and this and that. Of course, last year was a cluster and a dumpster fire at times for a lot of reasons. But yeah, I see that happening. But there is PTSD. And I brought up PTSD to him and how he knows the fan base probably has that. And so I hope if you didn't listen to it, you can on the in the premium section. It's pinned. And even Colt, I think, put up some things to highlight it as well. When we come back, Brian Driscoll covers Notre Dame. We got to go rapid fire here in this 4 o'clock hour because we have Ricky Thompson coming up as well. Dave Bartu in the college football ratings, rankings, standings, whatever they're called. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. Tailgating, I guess for the most part, is over, although there will be. Hey, Blake Blackmar and Brian Etheridge outside of AT&T Stadium in Arlington are going to put on a show. They're about to launch something where they're going to cook for you like we do a show for you on YouTube. I hope I'm allowed to say that. But bottom line is this. If you want to tailgate and you need brisket, tri-tip, you need sausage, chicken wings, you need something, to put on the grill, put in the smoker. That's what they have. Waco Custom Marketplace is a full-time, always available, wide open, ready for you butcher shop. Beef, pork, poultry, and, of course, seafood as well. That's where I get my steaks, my bone-in ribeyes. About 1.5 inches thick. Love them. Absolutely delicious. And that's where I order my steaks whenever I do. But also, if you want something else, like bakery, fresh baked bread and kolaches, fresh baked kolaches every day, they have a butcher shop, but they also have a bakery, kind of the old-fashioned grocery store feel. And also up and down the aisles, all the things from, I just throw it out, like from saltine crackers to Rotel, from pasta to seasoning, sauces, and more, and even a few other treats as well, and spices. It's an old-fashioned grocery store with a butcher shop and bakery. Brian Bauer and family done a great job. 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Berg Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Berg Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Masters of Barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer or order Zach Jack's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's Margaritas and Mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The pistol on 2nd and 2. Yates pressured by Foskey. Good interception. That one's going to count, and that's a Jack Kaiser Notre Dame touchdown.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Some interesting text. In fact, an Oklahoma student texted us in the last segment. We'll have that for you here. But we do have not rapid fire, but back-to-back guest. We start with Brian Driscoll. He, of course, joins us covering Notre Dame for Irish Breakdown. Brian, I don't think everyone was stunned when Brian Kelly left, although it seemed to be pretty quick and maybe staggering. Are there any inside the Notre Dame program that might be happy about that?
Oh, sure. Look, when you have a football roster of over 100 people and a support staff and a coaching staff that exceeds 30, 40 people, there's going to be people that don't like the head coach and people that love the head coach. I think there are some people, a decent number of people that were ready for a change and kind of felt like, Brian Kelly had taken the program as far as he was able to take the program. And I think that's partly why you're seeing such a hard push from the players for Marcus Freeman to be the next head coach at Notre Dame.
With Marcus Freeman, I guess the knocks would be he's not been a head coach and he's only 35. But Brian, and this is just my personal opinion, I think he might be kind of like Lincoln Riley where, look, it doesn't matter that he's only 35. The guy's clearly got a great football mind, and he's going to be a really good head coach. So, look, why not do it now if you're Notre Dame?
I agree. And look, I think that you have to look at the pedigree. And when a guy has not been a head coach, you look at, well, who's the guy been under? He's someone who played for Jim Tressel, coached under Jim Tressel for a quick minute, and coached under Luke Fickell, and now Brian Kelly. So he's clearly been around great programs. And the thing about Marcus Freeman, he's 35, but he's I've joked about this on our podcast. He's an old 35. He's married and has 6 kids. And anyone with kids will tell you, you have that many. My sister will tell me this all the time. When you have that many kids, it ages you. So, yeah. But he's a mature guy. He relates with the players well. And look, at the end of the day, I've always believed this: if you have the chops, you have the chops. We've seen coaches that have been head coaches for a long time, keep getting jobs, and they keep not being successful. And then we see guys like Lincoln Riley, we see guys like Dave Aranda, we see guys like Kirby Smart, guys like Dabo Swinney, who were successful, not because the programs are necessarily inherently built for them to be successful, but because they have a ton of talent. And I think Marcus Freeman is along those lines as well.
6 kids. He's practically 50. I just say he's 50 with 6 kids. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, like in cat years.
Yeah,
or whatever
exactly.
you want. Yeah.
So, Brian, I'm always curious, just kind of like for the local media, when did this first get on your radar, the Brian Kelly murmurs, and just what was your initial reaction when you started to hear some of the talk, the chatter, and then eventually, obviously, the hire itself and what's happened since?
Well, I spent this summer, one of the things I said this summer is that if Brian Kelly had a really good season with all they lost last year, that I could see him leaving. And for a number of reasons. I just feel like he was kind of restless at Notre Dame. I feel like he wanted to leave Notre Dame on a strong note to where the program was ready to succeed as he left. I don't think he wanted to leave him in a bad spot. And everything was kind of in place. You've got some really talented young coaches on staff. That you could, maybe get to succeed him. And I also think he just wanted to change. And I think that Brian Kelly had convinced himself that this that Notre Dame was holding him back from a championship as opposed to the other way around, and he wanted a new change, and he's 60, and we were told that kind of middle of the season he was looking to use the success they were having for a new contract. Notre Dame wasn't ready to do that since they just gave him a new contract last year. And he started seeing the money that was going around to guys like Mel Tucker and James Franklin, who's gone 11-10 the last 2 years. And Brian Kelly's like, well, hey, I've gone 21-3. I can get more than James Franklin. And, of course, LSU came calling and opened up the checkbook.
Brian, when it comes to Freeman, when he was at Cincinnati, he's known as a great recruiter. How important, of course, is that, other than the obvious, as far as will that be effective by being the head coach? Because sometimes you can do that and then you become the head coach, but he's known as being able to get alpha dogs, right?
Absolutely, and that's something he's done at Notre Dame. He's kind of, not single-handedly, but he's played a big role in dismantling this notion that you can't go into the South and the Southwest and compete with the big boys for the best players. He's certainly done that in a short period of time. And, I think if you're a great recruiter, it's just because you have the personality and the work ethic to be a great recruiter. You can connect with kids and you put in the work and you value it as part of your program. You have to be able to be a great recruiter, and people do it different ways. And I think Marcus will be able to do that. But the key is going to be, as a head coach, it's not just that you're a great recruiter, but you've got to hire great recruiters. It's got to be an important part of what your program's foundation is. And that's going to be more of a key for Marcus Freeman. He's not going to recruit 25-man classes by himself. He needs to be the closer and engage with those top-level players. He's got to make sure his staff is filled with people that can do the job at a very, very high level.
If it's not Marcus Freeman, then is it Luke Fickell? Who is it?
Well, I think Luke Fickell and Matt Campbell are the next two candidates that Jack Swarbrick really likes a lot. Obviously, with Luke Fickell, there are some time constraints on whether or not he could be the guy in regards to if Cincinnati wins this weekend. Luke Fickell is not leaving his team before the playoff. I think Brian Kelly's probably the only coach in America that would leave his team with a chance to go play for a national championship. So, I don't see Luke Fickell doing that, and I think the timing may not work out unless they lose this weekend. And then if it's not Fickell and he doesn't, and Jack Swarbrick's not comfortable with Marcus Freeman, then it would be Matt Campbell is what I'm told is another guy that he likes a lot. But I think a lot of the momentum is heading towards Marcus Freeman right now.
You brought up the playoff. Notre Dame checking in at number 6. You got Oak State there at 5, and obviously they could win a Big 12 title this weekend. Cincy could win the American, and so on and so forth. What are kind of the thoughts amongst the Notre Dame folks about where they are positioned? And obviously there's that big asterisk of not having a conference title game. How much is that talked about in terms of maybe even Brian Kelly part of the decision, but also just the fan base and how or if that holds them back in some ways?
I don't think it does. I mean, we've seen Notre Dame in 2015 or 2015 and climbed up to number 4 with, not being in conference. We saw them go up to number 3 in 2017. Last year, they made it to a conference championship game and got blown out and still made the playoff. And the thing that kind of frustrates a lot of Notre Dame fans, including me, is that Oklahoma State and Baylor need this weekend's game to play the same number of FBS opponents that Notre Dame has already played, because Notre Dame doesn't play FCS teams. And so I think that's part of the frustration of that 13th data point conversation. And the committee has never really punished Notre Dame for not being in a conference. And they're not punishing them this year for not being in a conference. The problem for Notre Dame is the teams that were supposed to build up your resume aren't any good. Mm-hmm. And you lost to Cincinnati. So the bigger problem isn't a 13th data point or not being a conference. It's that none of your opponents are in the top 25 right now. I think that's a bigger issue than not being in a conference.
Yeah, and in some years, and obviously Oklahoma State and Baylor are both really good. And one of them, and most likely, of course, Baylor now has an uphill struggle, and I don't think they had a chance anyway, but I know there's like 9 different scenarios. Oklahoma State gets in. If they win, there's a really good chance. But sometimes Notre Dame can play this same schedule 5 years ago or 4 years from now, and it might have 6 top 25 teams. Isn't it kind of sometimes just the luck of the draw?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in 2017, they played 7 top 25 teams that year. They played an 11-win USC. They played a 10-win Michigan State. They played Georgia, who became the national runners-up. They played Miami, who was a top 10 team that year. Stanford was a top 25 team. NC State was a 9-win top 25 team, and they went 10-3. Played LSU in a bowl game. 2018, you look at the schedule, and you're like, who's going to be good or not? And the 2 of the 3 ranked teams on the schedule that year were Syracuse and Northwestern. Who would have picked that before the season, So that's kind of the thing when you play sort of this national schedule and you play teams from, usually 3 to 4 different Power 5 conferences. There's a lot of up and down. And with USC and Stanford not being very good the last 4 or 5 years, that's really hurt Notre Dame. in that regard. And there was a lot of people thought, I mean, Wisconsin's normally a really good team. It's not normal for Wisconsin to be an 8-4 team like that. And part of that is because they played Notre Dame. If they would have played a weaker non-conference opponent, they'd be 9-3 in the top 25 right now. So it's just cyclical, and it's just how it goes sometimes. And, it's hurt Notre Dame this year, but it's certainly helped them in past seasons for sure.
Where do you think they stack up in the playoff conversation?
Well, I think right now they need help. And do I think if Notre Dame were to play Oklahoma State that they would beat Oklahoma State? Yeah, I do. But I think that's a bad way to make the argument. Otherwise, just put Bama in every year, because otherwise Bama's usually going to be favored. Look, the reality is if Oklahoma State beats Baylor this weekend, do I think Notre Dame would beat them in a bowl game? Absolutely. But Oklahoma State will have 3 wins over top 15 teams, and Notre Dame will have 0. And that's just, I can't make that case and sound objective in anything other than a homer to then say Notre Dame somehow still needs to be in. So Notre Dame needs help. They need Georgia to beat Bama, and they need either Iowa to beat Michigan or Baylor to beat Oklahoma State. I mean, they don't have the resume to earn being among the 4 just off the resume. Do I think they're one of the 4 best teams? Yes, but it shouldn't be about that. Otherwise, you can get in these bad arguments that you see at ESPN about, well, this team's more talented, and even though they have 2 losses, they should still be in. Well, they didn't handle their business, right? And Notre Dame played. If Notre Dame would have beat Cincinnati this year, no one's talking about whether or not they should or shouldn't be in. They didn't handle their business.
Well, I'm glad you answered that way, because you hit it from both sides of not only like why they are where they are, but I'm glad you said what you said about, I think they could beat Oklahoma State, because that's kind of my question is, where do you think they stack up? Because this is such a weird year, and with the top teams. But glad to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no. Brian, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go your question.
No. Follow up what Craig just brought up.
Well, I just think you have to be honest, right? Like, you can't make one argument because it hurts your team, helps your team one year, and then go against that argument in another year. I mean, I've argued in the past, I don't care if you have one of the 4 best rosters. Otherwise, just take the teams that recruit the best every year. You've got to go out and handle your business on the football field. And the reality is that Notre Dame didn't do that. They needed to beat Cincinnati, and they didn't do that. And so I even though I think they are one of the 4 best teams, they've been playing great football down the stretch. Their offense has finally got hot. The defense at Notre Dame, I mean, they've allowed 22 points in their last 4 games. I mean, that's pretty good, right? I mean, Oklahoma went through a stretch like that. And so I think right now Notre Dame can play with anybody. But at the same time, that's not how you decide a playoff spot, in my opinion. It's what did you do over the course of the year, and what's your resume at the end of the conversation? And even though I think they're a better team than Oklahoma State has a significantly better resume right now. And if they beat Baylor this weekend, it only strengthens that.
You are not going to get invited to the playoff committee, Brian. You're too logical.
Brian, thank you,
I know,
man.
right?
Appreciate your time, buddy. Appreciate you. All right, that's Brian Driscoll, Irish Breakdown. And by the way, on the chat room, I know you're Oklahoma State fans. Brian said something about them the last time he was on. There's a couple of opinions. Just relax.
It's his opinion.
It's his opinion, just like you have yours. And I don't expect you to agree if he thinks Notre Dame can beat Oklahoma State or whatever. But Brian's been on with us 3 times. The first time he came on, I couldn't wait to get him on again, and I'm glad he was on today. I thought he was about as fair as you could possibly be today on what he said about the teams that are still outside that bubble.
And that's his opinion. I mean, that's the thing about it is, I could easily say the complete opposite, and you guys get mad at me, and that's fine. But I'd love to see Oklahoma State and Notre Dame suit up. I mean, that's why I asked him the question was not like, do you think – like, how do you think they get in? I was more asking of where do you think they stack up? Like, are they one of the best 4 teams in the country right now, in your opinion, regardless of, like, who they lost to and why the play? Like, is Notre Dame one of the 4 best teams in the country? He seems to think so, and that's what I was looking for. So they are a good team. I'm fascinated to see if they do go the Freeman route. I mean, that seems like the alley-oop that's out there for them to just dunk it on home, and players would be happy, alumni would be happy, or some alumni that have already spoken out on Freeman and their desire to see him take the job. So yeah, we will obviously see it unfold, but fascinating job opening, Notre Dame being there for the taking.
And then the 3-2-1, all this debate is another reason why we need to go to 12 teams in the playoff. And then if there's 12, you're going to want 16, but at least it gives you a few teams who are just like a 1 loss. It gives you more of something.
I'm with you, but I do think a lot of people have brought up great points about the fact that it just, like last weekend would not have mattered the way that it mattered. It wouldn't have, because teams that lost would still be in the playoff. And so, Oklahoma loses, but guess what? Oklahoma would probably still get into the playoff if it was expanded, right? So I mean, careful what you wish for. I've been all for playoff expansion, to some extent, because I don't think 4 is right. But the whole idea of 12 or 16, and I know they don't really talk about 16, but like 12, that does affect the regular season in a major way, more so than it does now. Yeah. And so I don't know.
I think it just turns into a give and take of you're going to have to give up one thing to get another, right. And that's what it's going to be.
And if you think Alabama or others that get an extra mulligan, they're going to get now another mulligan.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, we got to take a break. Ricky Thompson, we're expecting him to join us. Former Baylor wide receiver, does their sideline for Baylor Radio. I know he's got kind of a tight window, so we'll take a break, come back with him. And also Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, on yesterday's release of the next to the last of the college football standings, rankings, and also that. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. The city of Woodway, I told you about this. They're having this Santa Claus thing. How about this? They're doing Santa letters. Now, some of you in the chat room just don't even go there when it comes to Santa Claus. Don't be like this man to my left who absolutely is just as negative. You are. You know I'm right. Letters to Santa Claus. Right now they have a campaign going on. The city of Woodway, discoverwoodway.com. Santa's elves dropping off magical mailboxes all around the North Pole, thanks to those who are writing cards to them right now. So if you have a son, a grandson, granddaughter, kids, grandkids, whatever, and you want them to write a letter to Santa Claus, and maybe he has the time, because he just always seems to have the time to respond, he will do so. So write letters to Santa. Stop by the pavilion in Woodway and pick up a postcard from the mailbox. Write a letter to Santa. Drop it inside the mailbox. Make sure you leave a return address in case Santa Claus can find the time during his busy schedule to return it back to you, whoever that you might be. Pavilion at the Arboretum's open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. It's discoverwoodway.com.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
New cars and trucks are coming. New car inventory is low, but GM just announced they will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. Now is the time to get your name on Richard Car's first in-line priority list and get a car or truck first. Call Richard Car Motors or go online to discuss cars and trucks in transit today. Go to richardcar.com for more details.
At Richard Car, we give you more. Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
Christmas is the biggest time of year for engagements. You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10, every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
All right, here we go. Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, Baylor sideline reporter for Baylor Radio on Sikkim 365 and 365 Sports. Ricky, you were at the game in Stillwater. Oklahoma State punched and bloodied Baylor early. There was opportunities, though, to win that game. What are a couple of things besides starting better that Baylor, in your opinion, must do on Saturday?
Well, Smokey, you're right. At 14-0 at the half, and I think maybe just the worst half of football the Bears have played this year. I just don't think they were very effective for a lot of reasons. I think the difference may be that you're going to see some shots downfield and maybe see them early. This is just me, but you've got Taquan Thornton, several guys out there that can get past these guys with the play action, and I think you're going to have to do some of that to get these guys out of running 7 or 8 in the box, because, man, they stuffed our run in the first half completely, and then we opened it up some in the second half. But I think you got to get it to the guys outside. They're going to be in man press coverage, and I know they used to tell us if they're man press, you better beat it. So I think they can put that on these receivers, and I think they can do it. I think either one of these quarterbacks, whoever it is, can deliver the ball, and I just think if you could hit one of those early, awesome. But even if you don't, if they know you're going to try it, that will change the way they play you defensively.
Ricky, both these teams are different in ways since they played each other. You know, Spencer Sanders hasn't had a turnover event like that, like he did against Baylor, where he has 3 interceptions. Of course, Baylor didn't capitalize on them. Baylor has maybe kind of asserted their dominance at times where they almost didn't know what kind of superpowers they had in that game. How different do you see these teams being overall since that first meeting?
Well, I thought Spencer Sanders maybe was the difference in the game for Oklahoma State last week. I thought he played really good football. He had the huge touchdown run when they really needed it. What was that? Probably over 40 yards, maybe 50. He just outran their secondary. He hasn't been throwing interceptions. I think part of what we did in that game is I thought we really, really did a good job of disguising coverages, and I think it had him confused at times, and I think that's probably what they'll try again. But as we've seen Oklahoma State since that point, I think the difference in them is Spencer Sanders is not turning the ball over. Their defense, just like it's always been, it's really good. And I'm telling you, that front 7 of theirs is as good as anybody we've played or will play this year. And for the Bears, conversely, I think they figured out how to run the football against really good fronts. They've done it in the games beyond that. They did it against Oklahoma. Had 295 yards rushing against a really good defensive football team. Bohannon was over 100. Abram Smith was over 100. So I think both these teams have changed. But I don't know. I just think that they match up pretty well against each other, and I think this is going to be a dang good football game.
Ricky, what did you think of the way Blake Shapen played in his first start?
Craig, I thought he played really well. I mean, there's a couple of times, and I think you heard Aranda say it, that I was saying, oh, my gosh, when he let go of it, and then it ended up being, oh, that was a great throw. So,
yeah.
you know, the kid's fearless, and that can be really good, and sometimes it's not. But I had rather have, if I've got a quarterback in that situation and he's not played a lot, I would much prefer one that is out there slinging the ball, playing quarterback, playing fearless than is passive. Because if he's passive, you know it's not going to work. If he's out there playing with confidence, at least you know you've got the ability to make things work offensively. And this kid's got such a quick release with the football. That's something you can't coach. You either have it or you don't. And he can sling it. He's made some really good throws. And I tell you what, we haven't seen out of him a whole lot yet that he can do. He can run with the football. He's probably faster than Gary. Now, he doesn't weigh 225, and I thought it was lights out for him last week when he got punched over on the Tech sideline. I thought we were done. But I think maybe you see him pull it more this week and maybe early, because there were several occasions I thought where, man, he pulled that football then, and there's nobody within 5 yards of him because they were crashing on the corners because I don't think they thought he was going to keep it. But I think you may see some of that. And Craig, I think that's just like going deep on the press coverage. You do that a couple of times, that changes everything defensively in the way you've got to play, just knowing that, hey, he may not hand that thing to Abram Smith or Treston Ebner. He may keep it.
Ricky Thompson, our guest, you know, he ran the ball somewhat effectively when he needed to, sometimes running for his life against Kansas State. He's got a little bit of that escapability, but the game was on the line in the fourth quarter, and this was after he almost was killed. He did what looked like a zone read and picked up a big-time first down. And I think you're right. You maybe see that. We saw that more with Gary as well. Your thoughts about the grind, Ricky? I asked Dave Aranda this on Monday. Is it more of a mental grind, the extra game? I know I'm not talking bowl game. Or is it a more mental or physical grind to get this last game, this next, where a lot of people are sitting at home wanting to play this week?
You know what? I think it's some of both, but if you really had to measure it, I think it's probably more mental. I just think that it's a game that is not on your schedule. Bowl game's not either, but you kind of expected that bowl or knew that it was going to be there since your sixth win. And this is a game you really didn't know you were going to play till about 10 o'clock Saturday night?
Yeah.
I think that is a mental factor, and I think none of these guys will say that, but I just think in your mind and as a player, when it's a game you weren't expecting, I think there is a difference. And that combined with just the excitement of knowing that Saturday at 2:30 you could be the Big 12 champions, there's some pressure with that. There's a lot of excitement with it, and sometimes the excitement can drain you physically as much as the injury side of it. And I've seen teams, I've played on teams that were so excited and so fired up that they were just absolutely drained after the first quarter. And I know that sounds funny, but I've seen it happen, and you can mentally wear yourself out. So I think that's something that this coaching staff will really be aware of. And if anybody's going to be aware of it, Dave Aranda is, and he'll try to deal with that. But to answer the question, I'd be much more worried about the mental side of it.
Ricky Thompson with us on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Ricky, Terrell Bernard did not play in the first game. Matt Jones filled in admirably. I mean, he and Dylan Doyle had, I think, 30 tackles combined and like 3 tackles for loss. I mean, they were having to do a whole lot in that first game. Obviously, having Terrell Bernard, an All-American back, makes a difference. But what kind of a difference do you think it makes versus the first time around without him?
Well, you know what? I think the difference it makes is that you can feel comfortable that you'll probably be in the right defense just because this is the guy that makes the calls. He's the guy that gets everybody in the right alignment. He's the guy that everybody looks to before the play. But, you know, the other thing is I think it will just add a notch more confidence in those other 10 guys to play a little harder, to play a little better, knowing they've got that guy in there. I think he is that type leader. I think he shows it in the way he plays. And I just think it's so important to have him back in there. Now, defensively, I thought we played okay against Oklahoma State. Had a couple of big plays in us, and that last touchdown drive, we let them go in, which ended up being the difference in the game when it was 17-14. But I just, going in there with him, I just think, as a general rule, this defense has to feel so much better, because when you have all three of those guys in there playing at the same time, then I like my odds when I've got 52-5 and number 2, all three of them in there.
Ricky, this is an experienced team, and yes, they're young in certain positions, but they have been in this game before. Now, not a lot of them, but I'd say 15 or 20 names that took a snap in the championship game against Oklahoma. Not much for Bohannon and a few others, but is there anything to that? Does that make any difference at all?
I think it can, but, I mean, once it gets started, I don't know that it will. And I say that because this game is going to have a feel of a neutral site with both teams having great crowds. It's not like a road game at all, because you're going to have – I know Baylor sold out their allotment, and I know a lot of folks that are going on other sites other than ours to buy tickets. So I think with that, with the crowd there to be behind them, and we know how important that is, particularly when you've just seen a team that's gone 7-0 at home. That is so important that our folks are loud. And with that, I just don't see that being a huge factor. I know they're playing for the championship, but once they go out there and you're running a quick post and the ball's heading towards you, you're not thinking much about Big 12. You're thinking about making the catch and making sure I've got my head after I catch it. So I don't think that'll be a big factor, guys.
So, Ricky, when I was up in the press box last week, I was looking down at the sidelines, and I was like, man, the team looks like smaller. It just doesn't seem to be as many guys out there. And I don't know if there was less people or not, but we did learn after the game that obviously the flu bug had been going around, and there were some guys who probably weren't all the way 100%. What was the energy level like last week on the sideline? I mean, that was obviously an ugly game. Weather was just overcast, his early kickoff, all that. What did you kind of see on the energy side of things as far as their performance last week?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was down a little. I think I even sensed that some in the pregame warm-ups. We talked a little bit about that off air with the guys, because we're always communicating back and forth about things on the field, what's going on. But I thought they were a little bit quiet in the pregame, and I think maybe that carried over into the game. And those 11 o'clock kickoffs, the more you get, that's just a tough time. And, of course, this week's 11 as well. But we've had enough of those where that shouldn't make a big difference. But whatever it was, I think Coach Aranda said after the game he knew we weren't going to play our A game because it had been that all week in practice. And he was right. I think that carried over. But again, sometimes the sign of a good team is when you can win a game and make the one extra play you need to make to win one when you're not playing very well. And that's certainly one that we wouldn't be having this conversation today if they would have lost it, I tell you. So we'll take the win any way we can get it. And I would be shocked if you don't see a really highly motivated, excited sideline and players on the field this week. I just think it's going to be phenomenal.
Refreshing. You got Oklahoma State. It's been a while for them, and Baylor a couple of years ago, but they've been through the rocks of ups and downs.
Ricky, did you think when you were on the sidelines last year that a year later you'd be covering a Big 12 championship game?
Well, that's a pretty quick answer. No,
yeah.
I sure didn't. I don't think anybody did. I think we would have all been thrilled if you tell me August we're going to be 7-5, go to a bowl game, maybe win that, end up 8-5. I think I would have taken it at that time. Certainly wouldn't take it now, though. 10-2, unbelievable by these guys and the performance throughout this year to really be a 10-2 football team. And one throw out of bounds from being 11-1. It's just that good a football team. So. Absolutely not. I think everybody should be thrilled, and I know we're going to have a big crowd up there Saturday, and I am really fired up about that.
Ricky, thank you, bud. Appreciate it. We'll have you on the week of the bowl game. Ricky Thompson, Baylor sideline for Baylor Radio with us, has been on. J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback, does the analyst work with the radio show the radio broadcast will join us on Friday. Ross Dellinger's going to join us this week. We've got somebody from Georgia.
He hasn't been doing anything lately, has
Alex
he?
Suttles. No, I know. We got a lot of things still to come. Somebody asked about John McClain. He normally with us Tuesday. We were so packed with so much college football. He's going to be on with us. John McClain will be on with us tomorrow. When we come back, Dave Bartu, well, get ready. He's going to bring his truth serum of what we are and what we have and who we are as far as teams that have a chance, legitimate chances with how the college football playoff standings are set. Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com, Dr. Rob Maxey. They'll be a sponsor of, this show from the day one. I've said that before. Since April the 6th, they called us up and said, or he actually sent me a direct message. We want to do something. And then he ended up doing as big a package as we have. Biggest sponsorship. His logo's right behind me. It's over this shoulder. IdealMRI.com. What do? They find out what hurts a muscle or a ligament. Something else that they can also find out, and I've told you this before, and I think it's important. I'm 62 years old. I've been very fortunate when it comes to anything prostate. Nothing. My PSA numbers are great. But my two older brothers have battled some bad stuff when it comes to prostate issues. And maybe you've had somebody in your family, or maybe you're at that age where that's kind of starting to be something you should worry about as you get your PSA check. Don't ever forget about that. But Ideal MRI can also help you with this. My PSA levels were fine, and I had a suggestion. The doctor said, hey, why don't you get an MRI of your abdomen, just in case, because of what your older brothers have been through. So I talked to Rob Maxey. Dr. Maxey set it up. I had that done, spotless. I think they told me my prostate might be slightly enlarged, but that's okay. But there was nothing else. And do you understand the peace of mind that I had knowing what my brothers have been through? And maybe you should get that done. They can do whatever going on with your knee or your shoulder, whatever, with a ligament muscle, but also they can do that with your abdomen to make sure, just to give you peace of mind on something else as well. They can save you money and also help you with insurance, $497 or less every single time at IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey guys, sports betting season is in full force with football season entrenched and the NBA and NHL underway and the Major League Baseball playoffs. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS.com. BetUS have been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That's BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses like ours at BetUS.com. 125% bonus on promo code SICKM125 or a 200% bonus if you use crypto on promo code SICKM200. BetUS, known as America's favorite sportsbook. NFL, college football, MLB, UFC, PGA golf. They've got it all at BetUS.com. So go to BetUS.com today and use promo code SICKM125 or SICKM200. That's BetUS.com, promo code SICKM125 or SICKM200.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, Paul's tracking down Dave Bartu. Craig Smoak has a note about one of the best players in college football on the defensive side of the ball and his future in football.
Yeah, I mean, we're at a point now here towards the end of the regular season is over now in the postseason where we're going to start getting a lot of announcements, guys transferring, entering the portal, or guys declaring for the NFL draft. And A&M defensive lineman DeMarvin Leal, great player. He has put out a message saying that he is, in fact, entering the NFL draft. So his career in Aggie land is done, but tremendous football player. He'll be a high draft pick and probably have a very bright future. But, notable entry into to this year's NFL draft.
Thank you very much, Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix. Again, he just spits truth about what things are, who things are, why things are where they are when it comes to college football. And, of course, the ratings, the standings, whatever has been released. One more time will be on Sunday. Dave, man, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Based on what they have now, with just a handful of games left, Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati, and then those who are on the outskirts, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Mississippi jump Baylor. That probably props up. Does that prop up Alabama? And then your thoughts about others as well.
No, that doesn't prop up Alabama anymore. That whole this was a more impressive win than that one. Committee didn't have time for all that crap. It's how many top 25 wins you got. It doesn't matter if Ole Miss is 8, 10, 12, 15. It's a top 25 win. You start getting into minutia like that, you can't apply it everywhere. So I think it's really simple. There's a bunch of teams that win and you're in. Georgia's already in. Their resume as is right now at 12-1 is still top 4. So you've got Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State trying to play their way in. Are they favorites? Is Oklahoma State a favorite?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I was just doing my expected point averaging modeling for these games. Where do I think I had Baylor. Oh, there it is right there. All right. I'll go on right now. Here we go. 24-23 Baylor in a barn burner.
Man, people would go insane if that happens, man. That'd be fun.
That is, if that score happens, actually it's 24.2 to 23.5. So we know that's not going to happen. But that score is the exact, it is literally the average manifestation of both teams' average offense and defense, plays per game on offense and defense, scoring, everything. That is exactly what they have done for 24 games combined. So, Baylor, I'll take Baylor in the points right now.
Damn, just don't waste any time.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it. Yeah.
All the way
Well,
out the top.
I go off on all sorts of tangents. We were talking about rankings, and now we're talking sports betting. And, well, people like sports betting better anyways.
Yeah.
But that being said, we have a group of teams, and these are tight games. I mean, there's a lot of reasons Oklahoma State's going to lose this game. There's a lot of reasons Cincinnati's going to lose this game. There's a ton of reasons that Alabama's going to lose this game because they're facing probably the best football team in the last 10 years on paper. And Michigan, God, they're going to have a meltdown to have Iowa's offense beat them. That'll be pretty embarrassing. But realistically, I mean, these teams are trying to play their way in, and Notre Dame is sitting right there waiting for teams to drop out. And Baylor's got to be a question mark, right? I mean, isn't that the topic of discussion? It's like, what if Baylor wins and Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati all lose?
Mm-hmm. I think I have a co-host for a podcast that we do, and he was bringing that up to me, and I was just like, I don't believe they have any chance. And then he started explaining why, and you know what? You're right. I mean, it's not being talked about at all, but like there was that like 0.01% chance if all hell were to break loose.
I think it's better than 0.01, dude. Because you think about it, if Baylor wins, they're jumping Ole Miss and Ohio State, period. Right?
Yeah, because they're not playing.
Yeah, because they're not playing. So they're jumping them. So bang, now they're at 7. All right? They've beaten Oklahoma State, which means Oklahoma State has to slide below them. Now they're at 6. If Cincinnati loses, bam, now they're at 5. Dude, we're like right here. Okay, we better stop because if they actually end up 5, that would just be hair pulling out, screaming, and there would be some PTSD in Waco.
They've been there before. You're right. In 2014, that's where they ended up, and TCU fell behind them from 3 to 6. I'll never forget that. Paul?
So, Dave, if Cincinnati wins, are they in?
Yeah.
There you go.
They're in.
There. Well, that's good. I think a lot of fans look at Cincinnati and think that they're in that spot. Of course, they get to play and TCU didn't, but they're in that spot that TCU was in, where they were 3rd and then did everything they were scheduled to do and still somehow wound up 6th.
Well, if Cincinnati wasn't playing this weekend and Oklahoma State wins, boom, you flip them.
Yeah.
They're done. They're out. They're out. I mean, we all know. Look, it's the bottom line. It's not the brand. People like to say, "Oh, if that was Oklahoma or Texas instead of TCU, Baylor." Shut up already. There's no correlation with that. I mean, seriously, just anybody says that, just smack them because it's dumb. There's no correlation between brands and the rankings. It's all this framework I've been talking about every time I come on the show. And bottom line, if Baylor and TCU played in a Big 12 championship game this coming Saturday in 2014, the winner is in the top 4. Period. No ifs, no ands, no buts. You want to blame somebody, blame all the guys that told Bob Bowlesby and he himself that said, "Yeah, we don't need a championship game. We do our round robin. We're a little badass. We're cooler than everybody else." No, you're dumber than everybody else, and it cost TCU or Baylor a shot in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that would have been one hell of a game. That would have been incredible to see those two play in a championship game that year. It would have been amazing. Dave, what are your thoughts on Notre Dame sitting there, no game this weekend, 11-1 at number 6?
Well, not too bad a shape, right? I mean, given that everything that could go down because Cincinnati, look, Houston ain't no chump. No. They got good offense. They got good defense. And don't tell me for a second Luke Fickell hasn't been thinking about going to Notre Dame for the last month because, look, this Brian Kelly ain't nothing new. It's behind the scenes. Been going on a long time. And so with Fickell, his mind's at Notre Dame, in my opinion, and I think there's opportunity for Cincinnati to drop. Bang, that's Notre Dame. And if Baylor, again, there's kind of, I'm telling you, the chaos, it can come down to Baylor, Notre Dame, but Notre Dame does need a lot of upsets to happen for them to have a shot.
If Oklahoma State does win, and that means they beat Baylor, Oklahoma State, Baylor again, if they beat them, is the only way they get in the top 4 is if Alabama loses to Georgia?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the way it is right now. When you look at it, I mean, if Georgia loses, Georgia's going to go to 4, Alabama's going to go to 1, Michigan's going to stay at 2, and then it's going to be Cincinnati or Oklahoma State at 3. And if this committee is honest to the framework that they have used, that I've been talking about, that we calculate every week, if they're honest to it, Cincinnati's in and Oklahoma State is number 5, which I'm sure Baylor fans would be laughing at anyway. Say, hey, well, welcome to the party, pal.
Yeah, no question. There's a lot of that. There is a little bit. You mentioned PTSD. There is some of that as well. All right, what have we not hit on yet? We've kind of gone. Go ahead, Paul.
I do want to ask you about some of these coaching changes, and you know, first off, with Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame, that leaves a hole there, and a lot of talk is about Marcus Freeman. You just mentioned Luke Fickell. Do you think that Notre Dame would pull the trigger and hire Marcus Freeman?
Oh, I would like to know what kind of drugs they're on, because I'd like to try them. That'd be pretty cool. A little trippy, probably. No, I don't see any reason to keep Marcus Freeman at all. I think that's crazy to do it. You got Fickell, you got Braum, you got Campbell, all these guys, proven recruiters, proven coaches, everything, proving that hiring guys and firing guys. I mean, there's 3 guys right there. They're all phenomenally better than Marcus Freeman. Nothing against Marcus Freeman. I'm sure he's a terrific guy, but his experience level is 0. Dude, you don't even have your driver's permit yet. You don't get to drive Daddy's brand new car. All right. So it's got to be Fickell, Braum, Campbell, probably in that order. If Freeman stays there, it is, in my opinion, a short-term, huge risk to be doing that. I just can't see in any decision process that is completely short-sighted. And man, that's a lot of risk to be taken, man. I just can't. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I can't see it.
Dave, you're up there in Pac-12 country. I believe you're a Ducks fan, and USC obviously made a pretty big move last weekend with Lincoln Riley. Your thoughts on that shockwave and obviously the Trojans program with Riley moving forward?
Well, great for the Pac-12 brand. You know, I've always said that conference perception in terms of how good it is only as good as your top 4 or 5 brands. If your top 4 or 5 brands aren't doing it, look at the Pac-12. The only one doing anything is Oregon. Washington down, USC down, UCLA down. You know, so when people look at the Pac-12, they go down. So bringing in Riley, that pumps the brand up, and it's a great opportunity for him. I'm not sure. There's probably some better coaches out there. There probably maybe have been hiring Brian Kelly would have been a better grade than hiring Lincoln Riley. But in terms of winning the emotion and getting fans fired up and getting alumni fired up, boosters fired up, I don't think you could do it any better. In fact, everybody across the board right now, I haven't seen somebody yet not take best man available, at least in the higher end jobs that everybody's been talking about.
Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, with us. He's been on every week after. He'd been on before, but every week since they really started to release the weekly drama or soap opera of the college football standings.
Yeah, and if somebody's got a playoff question I want to throw out there, and can do that real quick, then hit up the text line. But, Dave, amongst those coaching hires, I mean, obviously the LSU job was a big one. USC job is a big one. I guess 2 parts here. What direction do you go if you're Oklahoma? And also, amongst the jobs that aren't Kelly or Riley, like the Vatex or whoever else you want to throw in there, what hire stood out to you? I mean, you just said that you liked what you've seen, but what were maybe a hire or 2 that really stood out to you?
Something, LSU, I mean, you're talking about your apex predator right there, got the best guy available. Boom. Cross that off. Florida couldn't get Kelly, couldn't get Franklin because Franklin resigned. 3rd best guy on the board, Napier, boom, got him. Riley, I think that's as good as you're getting for USC, like we just talked about. Virginia Tech, they just went in a different direction. I mean, you had Campbell sitting out there, you got Braum sitting out there, you got Dan Mullen sitting out there, and they went and hired Brett Pry, brought him home back to Virginia Tech. No head coaching experience, but a tremendous defensive coordinator, probably the best defensive coordinator effort this year. Faced the 2nd most plays in all of college football and had the 2nd best scoring efficiency defense. So I think there's a bit of a risk there, but I understand the comfort of bringing a guy familiar with campus back into the fold. As for Oklahoma, I've kind of gone back and forth on this. When it first happened, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're screwed. Totally, completely, utterly screwed. They got 3 years left to go in the SEC. But here's the thing. Lincoln Riley was forced to do, this is the short-sighted part of it. People would think, Oklahoma, all he's got to do is just keep going and then roll right in the SEC. Wrong. This team is built for the Big 12. This is a tiny team. This team right now in the SEC gets physically beat to crap within 3 months. So Lincoln Riley was faced with the task of retooling the Oklahoma roster or retooling the USC roster. So if I'm Oklahoma, they can go short-sighted and bring in an offensive guy like Lincoln. Or you go long-sighted and you hire a guy that can build an SEC-style roster. So obviously, if you could bring in Matt Rule and Joe Brady, you do it. No brainer. Okay, that guy's built rosters all over the place, and Brady has SEC experience, albeit just for a year. Or you bring in Venables. I think Venables is probably the most logical one that fits that because he's built big defenses at Clemson, and so he understands what it takes to win at the highest level. So to me, and this is kind of hard to explain to Oklahoma fans, it's like we might take a step back because we actually have to retool this roster. We're too little for the SEC. I don't know if that'll go over very well. But I think that if I'm Joe and I'm looking long term, I need a guy that is going to build a roster that will compete with the SEC from day one. If you wait for that to happen for 3 years, man, there's going to be a lot of stinging.
Dave, thank you, man. Appreciate it as always. Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, CFB Matrix on Twitter, with us following the college football playoff numbers when they come out, and he's the one that kind of taught us a little bit about propping up the bottom of the top 25, but also, and I saw this, and I think it's from Gary Lewis on the chat room about his coaching matrix or whatever it is, about if you have a record in your first year, I think it's like -4. If you're under -4 your first year, you're a dead man walking. And I think that happened to Clay Helton. He said that about Sark, who then beat Kansas State to go 5-7 rather than be 4 under 500 in his opening year with Texas. Instead of 4-8, they ended up 5-7.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to get into the coaching conversation as well. And there's not as much there's tons of playoff scenarios, obviously. We went over some of them. But, man, Oklahoma State getting left out at number 5 would that'd be a tough pill to swallow. But, it's shaping up to where that could happen.
That could absolutely happen. And you wonder if, in fact, Oklahoma State, who's been peaking, and let's say they dominate. I'm not saying they will, but what if they do? What if it's 30-10? He said there's no way Cincinnati, if they beat Houston, will be knocked out of the 4. What if Oklahoma State drills Baylor?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I default to what he just said there. I mean, we didn't get that too in-depth with it, but yeah.
But if Oklahoma State drills Baylor, I mean, look, as long as Georgia wins, then I think that's Alabama a pretty simple thing.
I think it'd be more of like, would Georgia blow out Alabama to the point of where you actually like maybe go, oh, wait a second here. But, I mean, the odds of that also happening are very slim.
I don't know. I mean, I think Georgia's going to win that game. I think they might have the potential. If there's any team that can blow out Alabama in the entire country, it is Georgia. But they would have to have. I mean, again, everything would have to go their way.
Yeah.
But Alabama's also a team that can play really poorly for most of the game and then win.
Yeah,
they've done it several times this year. So.
Interesting scenario, though, there with Baylor. I mean, they would probably get all the way to 5, and that's where it would stop. But, I mean, they could get all the way to 5. And
it is remarkable that we're even saying that.
No, it is.
It is remarkable, as Ricky Thompson mentioned. All right, when we come back, the 5 o'clock hour, we're running a little bit late into it. John Machota will join us today at 5:30, covers the Cowboys in their game tomorrow night against New Orleans. Paul, do we have time to open the phone lines up?
I mean, yeah, for a little bit. You have to be responsible, though.
Call us, please, 254-339-1122, and wish Paul happy Christmas birthday, whatever you want to call it. And also, again, we'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts, what do you think about the college football, the latest rankings that came out? What are the scenarios, not 3 or 4, but one of the scenarios that intrigues you the most about what could happen this weekend, and your thoughts about, as Notre Dame and Oklahoma, they wait for the white smoke to come out of the tower about who their next head coach will be. 254-339-1122, Sikkim 365 Radio. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. I'm driving a 2022 Grand Cherokee L Edition. Went by there a couple of nights ago after the show. Ted Teague, the general manager, great friend of the show, one of our fantastic sponsors, said, hey, I want you to drive this around for a couple of days. Most awarded SUV ever. Delivers more legendary 4x4 capability, premium on-road refinement, craftsmanship, superior luxury and comfort, the most safety and advanced technology features in its class, now in 3-row form for the first time. I drive normally. I bought a used, pre-owned Ford Explorer back in the summer of 2019, I guess. 2020. And I love that car. This Jeep Grand Cherokee L is, I don't know how to explain it. It is almost like driving a pickup truck, but also with the luxury of an SUV and a nice SUV. 3 Jeep 4x4 systems, class-leading select terrain traction management system, 5 terrain modes, continue and improve upon traditional legendary off-road capability, including more off-road ground clearance, water fording capability compared with previous generations. I can read all this to you. Premium spacious interior features, standard 10-inch display screens across the instrumental panel. It's loaded with everything. I've had it for a couple of days, and I'm still not even able to get to everything because technology in me is like oil and water. But it is absolutely amazing. It's got all of you want with your heats and your steering wheel that's heated if you want it to be. I'm telling you. Hand-wrapped, quilted, Palermo leather, open-pore, waxed walnut wood, 21-inch wheels, standard premium amenities, elevating the new Summit Reserve package to the highest levels of luxury. It's the 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee L Edition at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey guys, sports betting season is in full force with football season entrenched and the NBA and NHL underway and the Major League Baseball playoffs. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS.com. BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That's BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses like ours at BetUS.com. 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 or a 200% bonus if you use crypto on promo code SICK'EM200. BetUS, known as America's favorite sportsbook. NFL, college football, MLB, UFC, PGA golf. They've got it all at BetUS.com. So go to BetUS.com today and use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That's BetUS.com, promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, here we go. Roger Dodger, you guys still on? What a long stream. We have incredible sponsors, and we have them, and we'll continue to have them, and we had them since the day one of April the 6th. We love them. All right, now. It's 512. Couple of notes. Paul, 254-339-1122. That number is open if you'd like to give us a call. We'd like to hear from you on something to do with college football as they enter the final week of the regular season. Which of the games is and I know Baylor is like a 5-point underdog to Oklahoma State.
5.5.
5.5. Which of the games will have the biggest impact on the final standings? Is it Alabama, Georgia? Is it Cincinnati, Houston? Could it be Oklahoma State, Baylor?
I think kind of splitting hairs, to be honest with you.
I know, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's for the listeners to throw their opinion out there. I mean, you just asked it, so I'm thinking, and I think my immediate thought is it's splitting hairs because all of them are as impactful as the others are. But yeah, I mean, at Cincy, all you got to do, Cincy, is win. You know, it's asking. I mean, that Houston team, they don't get nearly enough run, I think, in terms of teams that have had great years. I mean, Dana Holgorsen last year, that was a bumpy ride, and there was already people kind of crowing about his future there and how long it would last after just one season. But you know, to turn around and do what they're doing, Clayton Tune has really played well. Alton McCaskill, their young running back, is a tremendous player. He's going to be really, really good in the next couple of years. Got great skill guys. They got a game breaker in the return game. They're good. They're good. That's going to be a real challenge for Cincinnati. I would not be surprised at all to see Houston win that game. But I would like to see Cincy win it. I want to see them upset the apple cart and get in that playoff and just let's see what they do. And can you imagine if they got in there and played spoiler? Like what the conversations would be like?
Oh, my God.
At least there would be a chance to have those conversations versus let's just block them out and they don't have a shot at it. So I really am pulling for Cincy. No disrespect, Houston fans. It's just a playoff thing that I want to see happen. But, yeah, Baylor, Oklahoma State, I mean, the thing is what Bartu just said is Oklahoma State could win and still not get in, right? So that one's very curious to me. You would think with a win that would be automatic for the Pokes, but not based on what he said. So, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what other people may think.
Yeah, Paul, biggest game of affecting the Final Four. I don't even like using that. The college football playoff teams.
Well, yeah, I think it's got to be Cincinnati and Houston because that would be the most seismic thing to happen to the college football playoff was a group of 5 team getting in. And if they lose in their conference championship game, which is essentially the unwritten code that they've been given of here's how you crack this thing. You have to win pretty much every game for a couple years. And then, so don't lose it all. Have a good, Power 5 win on your schedule and we'll consider it and hope everything goes right behind you. And so far, so good for Cincinnati on all that. But, yeah, I think that's the biggest one because, Everybody forgot about Houston since that Texas Tech game, but they've not lost.
They should have won that game.
Yeah, they should have won that game. So
they won 11 in a row, right?
Yeah, they won 11 in a row. But nobody's talking about them because, again, they're in the American, and who cares? And they lost their game against the Power 5 opponent, a very average Power 5 opponent who fired their coach at that. So, you know,
in the first game of the year.
In the first game of the year, yeah. So, but they've won 11 in a row. So, yeah, I mean, Cincinnati's
up 21-0.
I'm sure Cincinnati would love to be going into this. Yeah, love to be going into this game, you know, against a team that was 8-4, but they're not. They're going against a team that's 11-1. So, yeah, it's the biggest one to me.
Well, I think it's great because I think the American Conference, and by the way, 2 future Big 12 teams will be a part of that when they play for each championship, and 2 current, Oklahoma State and Baylor as well. When Texas and Oklahoma's story began back in late July, and that's when we gained about probably 75 to 80% or more of you on our YouTube channel, there was a media poll that was released. Armstrong, do you still have that? I sent it to you. It's been a few days. It's the one that says the 4 jokers went and really voted that Oklahoma won't win the Big 12. You have that?
Why are you doing this?
All right, no, because I think it's important because the games have to be played. Oklahoma has dominated the Big 12 for really not like the last 10 years, but really for a long, long time. So
they're the only team that's been in every single Big 12 championship game in the last 4 years since they reignited it. They're the only team that's been in all of them, and they've won all of them. No other team has. I mean, there's been no Big 12 title game since it was relaunched that has not featured Oklahoma and has not featured Oklahoma as a winner. So history is going to be made in that regard alone. And they also won the last one before the break of the championship game, so it actually goes back to the end of the first time. But yeah, we got 2 brand new teams in here that are
Armstrong. This is it right here. Okay. I said it to you. It's been a while, and we were going to get to it, and this is just all right. So, it's a writer from CBS. 4 jokers went and really voted that Oklahoma won't win the Big 12. Good luck with that. Now, I voted for them to win the Big 12. Paul, who did you vote to win the Big 12? Oklahoma. Now, I didn't have Texas anywhere near. I think they had them 4th or 5th. I had Baylor probably 6th or 7th, maybe a notch up from where everyone else had them at 8. I wasn't any genius here. I thought Iowa State would be the other team playing like they were last year for the Big 12 championship game. Craig, who did you say was going to win the Big 12?
Well, let's not make me sound like I'm like super smart because I did not have Oklahoma
because they didn't
State.
Win it either.
I had Iowa State.
Yeah.
I was one of those 4 jokers. Call me Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson. But yeah, to his point, I was one of those 4 jokers, and looks like I was more right than you were in the long run. So yeah, paint my face up and let me go crazy. It's fun to talk trash, though, on social media. It for some people it is. But, yeah, I thought about digging that tweet back up and just applying a GIF to it, and maybe I still will. But I definitely saw that at the time. And, I can't believe somebody actually didn't pick Oklahoma. And they're in this game this weekend, right?
No, they're not, Craig.
Oh, wait, no, they're not in the Big 12 title?
An eyelash away.
What?
But they're not.
Yeah, oh, wow. That's crazy. So, wow, you can have a different opinion and be right and not dunk on people in the preseason. Whatever.
It's an easy thing, and then you hope that fades into Bolivia. And I remember I copied that because I do that on things. Because here's the other reason I brought that up. Leave it up, Armstrong.
Here's the other thing. I would want to say this, too, because I'll forget this thought. Him or anybody else that are, similar, Texas at number 2.
No, you just took my punchline. But
sorry.
The reason I brought it up was not just that Oklahoma's not in it, and a year that Oklahoma and Texas decided they were going to, skip bail and move on whenever it might be, and it's going to be sooner rather than later. But look at number 3. You talk about a joke. They were at one point trying to keep from being 10th.
Yeah, they were. They did not deserve to be number 3, but guess what? They're going to be in the media poll next year.
Oh, yeah, they'll be.
But the people who don't put Texas or Oklahoma at the top are the jokers, but I guarantee you next year it'll be like Oklahoma won. No, actually it won't be because now Lincoln Riley's gone, so that'll change. But if Lincoln Riley was around next year, ho-hum, boring. Everybody vote Oklahoma because that's the default button, and let's not think about it outside of that. And look at them this year. So the jokers are the ones that all just assumed Oklahoma was going to run away with this thing, if anything. So, yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. But Texas is going to be overrated because they always are. And, eventually, I think the thought process is that eventually you're going to be right on it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, let's just put them there because eventually they are going to be, a good team. And that's what happens every single year. But yeah, I'm glad that it is a new matchup here in the Big 12 title game. And somebody's going to win the first, Big 12 championship game that's not named Oklahoma in over a decade, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I voted Oklahoma 1 and Iowa State 2. I didn't vote Texas 3. I voted them 5. I think I had TCU at 4. I might have had Oklahoma State. I had Oklahoma State third. Third. I had Baylor above Kansas State by a spot.
Well, how about that? Where was Baylor in that poll? They were number 8.
Yep.
And here they are playing for the title. So, yeah, preseason polls and all of that, that's why you take it with a grain of salt. But you certainly don't try to dunk on people at the time. That's just dumb.
Yeah, especially when somebody actually saves the tweet that was a little bit condescending. Now, this is from the text line. I didn't think about this much, but this is 813. This is Florida. Isn't that Tampa?
Tampa.
Houston is 11-1 with wins against the following teams with their records. This doesn't mean that it's Houston's fault. 4-8, 4-7, 3-8, 6-6, 2-10, 7-5, 8-4 with a flat tire at the end in SMU, 2-10, 3-9, 6-6, 1-11.
Yeah, look, and I know that's why nobody's talking about them. I'm just saying that if you're Cincinnati, for Cincinnati's perspective, they'd much rather be playing one of those 8-4, a team that's 8-4 and came in second in their league, that rather than 11-1 Houston. In that regard, yeah, I know why they've not. I get it.
Oh no, that wasn't a shot at you at all. That was just putting up their numbers.
No, I know
from the 256. Enjoy the show on YouTube. If Alabama were to beat Georgia and both make the playoffs, do you think there would be more urgency to expand the playoffs sooner rather than later?
I would think
urgency now.
They would. They both would. Yeah. Unless it was like 60-0, and that's not going to happen. So yeah, that first point, they would both. They're both going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think it seems pretty sure.
I do think though that if you get another time where 2 Power 5 conferences are going to get left out of this thing and not just one, then the ones who are on that committee from those 2 conferences will certainly start to bang the drum louder, because then they're like, if this is just the SEC championship, then let's call that game in Atlanta the championship and everybody else can play it out, because that's how it's going to feel, to a lot of those schools. So look, the ACC is not making the playoff. We know that already. So that's one of the Power 5s. The Pac-12, more than likely not making the playoffs.
They're not going to make a playoff. They can't. Yeah, Oregon can win their game, but they're not. They're too far back.
Yeah, those 2 are already not. So you're already to 3 Power 5s not making it out of the bunch, and maybe the Big 12 won't either. So it's.
Does Cincinnati have enough pull to get people angry enough to really force a change if they get left out? I don't know that they do.
Well, especially since they're leaving anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know that they would indirectly or directly affect the conversation around it. I think if Oklahoma State were to get left out, if they were to win on Saturday and still get left out, Bob Bowlesby would have an argument to make. So, yeah, possibly, but I think we kind of all know the deal at this point, and I don't know that, just this year one team happened to get left out like an Oklahoma State or a Cincinnati because those are the best bets would really force too much change. And, by the way, they've been discussing that all day long. They've been having those meetings all day today.
Yep.
And they left that room, and there's still no new format for the playoff, although there were, I guess, some things that they figured out as far as, the road sites, how that would work. I saw it in passing. So there were some things that they agreed to, but the one thing they did not agree to at the big meeting today was the actual, what is the playoff format going to look like? So they're still on that timeline, and the time's ticking down, and I don't know, how close or how far away they are from making this decision, but I know Bob Bowlesby had a comment as far as, basically saying that he was hoping that they were going to be able to get something done, and they still can't. So, still working on the playoff.
I don't think they can get it done until we see the dust clear with this year. They're going to expand. We all know that. I think they need to let the season play itself out, not get emotional about what's going on now, but just kind of let this thing play out and then make decisions sometime between now and, let's say, March and April. All right.
Two quick calls before we got to call John Machota. Steve in Ohio, thanks for your call. You are on the Bet US caller line.
Hey, guys, respect your opinions and knowledge. Just something on a college football playoff real quick. Earlier in the show, you were going over Alabama's schedule. And I'm not saying this because Georgia shouldn't be the number one team. They should be. Look at their schedule.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, but on November 20th, when you played Charleston Southern, and that wasn't, you didn't hear anything from SEC fans about that. You didn't hear anything from the national media. You didn't hear anything from anyone. Okay? That's a scrimmage, all right? The Washington Generals have a better shot at beating the Globetrotters than Charleston Southern did beating Georgia. Okay? Yeah. Simple as that. Go look at the rest of their schedule. I'll leave it at that, guys. I'm tired of hearing, you got to have style points. You got to play in this conference. You got to play this amount of teams. No. Come on. Look at the schedules. I got great respect for the SEC, Big Ten, all the conferences. But come on,
Yeah.
Let's quit the charade.
Yeah.
What's your name again? What's
Steve.
your name? Steve, thanks for the call, buddy. Appreciate your
Pete.
time. Pete, I'm part of Pete. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I agree with him on that. Like the SEC, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, how the SEC does that little late season scrimmage. They stick it. Nobody says anything about it yet. The teams early in the season, you're like, what are you doing? It's boring.
You got let me be Twitter guy here. SEC 423 or something like that. They need a break from the tough SEC schedule, Paul. I mean, it's the hardest conference. They got to have that late season break to catch their breath because it's such a grind that nobody else can quite understand or would be able to, compete with. They have to have that automatic win in week 11 every year.
But I do look, Georgia.
That was pretty good, by the way.
Hey, Georgia's schedule. He makes a great point about that. He makes a great point. And I will say this, though, about Georgia's schedule. They have the schedule they were dealt, and yes, the SEC East isn't great. They're not like the SEC West as tough and deep, but the way that they went through that schedule, I think, is what's impressive to me.
Okay, here let's talk about this because they had Charleston Southern, but then back-to-back weeks. Now, against one of the fun teams early in the year was Arkansas when they were hot. They beat them 37-0. They were 8th in the country. Hammered Auburn 34-10, and then Kentucky 30-13. That's where it's their defense. They've given up no more than 17 points in a game. Yes, their schedule, if you look at the number of top 25 wins, has changed because teams are in and out. Florida's not even a top 25 team when they played them. They won 34-7. That didn't include that game.
The big thing with Georgia is just their level of dominance. I mean, you can't deny that when you watch it. You can't deny it, and you can't sit there and watch it and go, well, yeah, they're only doing it against Charleston Southern. No, they're doing it against every stinking team that they play pretty much. I mean, they've given up no more than 17 points this year, and that was to Tennessee on the road, and that's the most they've given up all year long. The previous high they've given up all year long, 13 points twice. So, I'm with you on, kind of the way these things are massaged sometimes, but Georgia's been so dominant that, I don't really think there's any argument against them. Plus, you have that 3 top 25 win stretch in a row right there in the middle of the season where, boom, that's 3 top 25 wins. Arkansas, Auburn, and Kentucky.
And they
back to back.
It opened the year against, we didn't know who they were, and they 10-3 against Clemson, a team that can't score. But it was Clemson, so that was the one that, okay, that's how you kick-started the year. Clemson's not who they have been.
But to his point, I think if you're going to focus in on somebody, Alabama. They lost to A&M. Granted, it was on the road and it was overtime. Who was A&M's starting freaking quarterback that day?
Zach Calzada.
Would it have mattered if it was Haynes King? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like they were playing C.J. Stroud in College Station and went to over. No, they got beat by a backup quarterback who's okay. And yes, it was on the road and all that. All right, that's fine, whatever. And I'm not saying Alabama's not a good team, but they don't get their schedule broken down the same way that other teams get their schedules broken down. They just have to win. It doesn't matter how they win. They just have to win, whereas others have to have, like Cincinnati, style points. Even if the opponent is the exact same. They barely edged Auburn, but what is that? Oh, that's a rivalry game. Who was Auburn's quarterback?
Yeah, backup, because Bo Nix was hurt.
And playing hurt.
And they hadn't scored for 54 or 5 minutes or so.
So it's but you know what? Let's do this. Oh, but that was the Iron Bowl. Like, why does that matter? Why does that get excused, but it wouldn't be used the same way? Why does backup quarterback? Why did Baylor drop when they had a starting quarterback that was a backup making his first career start? Oh, well, they dropped because Tech sucks and they were at home or whatever. But there's no mention of, like, they might have struggled because, well, the fact that the guy was making his first career start at quarterback. But, Bama beats Auburn with the backup, and it's like, oh, my God. And I'm not saying Auburn and Tech are the same team. But, like, what's good for the goose should be good for the gander, and it never is with certain programs. And I think that's garbage. I'm not at all saying Alabama deserve to be in the playoff, but they don't get their close wins broken down the same way other teams do.
They don't have to worry about style points.
No,
that's
at all.
They don't have to worry about them. They don't. Yeah. All right, let's one more call, and it's our old buddy Jeff. Speaking of Alabama, it's Jeff in Mexico.
Oh my God!
Hey, roll tide, guys.
What's
Roll
up, Jeff?
Tide.
Great to have you, man.
Hey, I was calling about the playoffs. I do hope that the playoffs go to a 16 team, but I don't want to see auto bid. And as far as this year's playoffs, I mean, everybody's complaining about Alabama, but hey, if Alabama wins Saturday, they deserve to be in. If they don't, then they won't. And I don't think they deserve to get in. But I do want everybody to know that Saban is 4-1 when being an underdog, and 2 of those wins have been against Georgia.
Yeah,
I'll tell you right now, I am not ruling out that outcome at all this Saturday in any way, shape, or form. I am not for 1 second believing that this is automatically a Georgia win. Not for 1 second am I believing that. So, yeah, I could definitely see Alabama going in and winning this game. I mean, if I had to pick straight up, I'm picking Georgia. But I am absolutely considering the fact that Alabama could go in there and win this game. And if they do, they deserve to be in. And even if they don't, I mean, that's a conversation that obviously a lot of people are having right now. It would probably depend a lot on, how they lost. But I'm looking so forward to this game. I think it's going to be a great game, roll tide and all that. I just hope they bring their A game, and I'm sure they will. I want to see some good football, and I expect we will.
When we come back, John Machota, the Cowboys play the Saints tomorrow night. God, we love this show. We hope you do too. And we appreciate every one of you as we continue to grow from coast to coast and border to ocean. Is that the way you say it, Paul?
No, not really. Ocean to ocean. I don't know. Maybe you had it right and I'm wrong, but I do know we need a commercial break.
We do.
We'll come back and discuss
coast
the
to coast. That's what it is.
I said coast to coast.
It's border to ocean. I've never heard border to ocean before.
Well, it's on ocean.
It's kind of slanted.
We'll have John Machota with the Cowboys next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco. A hidden gem. I was there the other day. And Jeffrey, the next wave of the lineage of Riverbend Liquor and Wine was there and helped out in the time I was there for about 7-8 minutes, maybe a little longer, because I was talking to Jeffrey after he helped 3 different groups of customers. Boom, boom, boom. And then there was another customer back there being helped by another one of the employees. That's what you get at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. It's great customer service. If you're looking for something, if you want a recommendation, the people in there was a guy asking for a whiskey recommendation, which they have great high-end bourbons there. And there was someone trying to find a good gin for a mix or something they were going to make at a party. And got great recommendations. If you know what you want and you want to go through the drive-thru window, it's super, super fast, like a NASCAR pit crew. That's what they do at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel at the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Hey, by the way, if you have been one of those, a listener or viewer who have been wanting merchandise, new merchandise from Sikkim365.com or this show, 365 Sports, I'm about to tweet out a link in which you have some goodies, and I'm going to put it in the chat room as well for those of you who have asked. John Machota covers the Cowboys, theathletic.com. John, are they limping into December?
Limping is a good word to describe it. It's some injury, but obviously COVID recently has been a thing that's hit this team pretty hard, mainly the coaching staff going in this game. But yeah, they're limping in, but there are reinforcements on the way, and it looks like we'll see at least one of them tomorrow night in DeMarcus Lawrence, and it appears that Amari Cooper, who made the trip over, is going to be out there. So I don't know at what level Amari Cooper is going to be effective, and I don't know if he's going to get the full allotment of plays that he normally does, but to get those two guys back significantly improves this team. So, but yeah, to answer your question, yes, they are limping into December, but it does seem like they're headed in the right direction in the injury department.
No Terrence Steele, which means Lyle Collins will get to start at right tackle. John, were you surprised at how that played out, that when Lyle Collins got back, that he wasn't at least back in the starting lineup within a couple of games?
Yeah, I really was. when Lyle's at his best, I think he's a Pro Bowl type player. And while I think Terrence Steele has been just night and day better this year, I don't think there's any question about that. I still felt like whenever Lyle gets back, even if it takes him a week or so, he's going to get back in the starting lineup, and he's going to stay there as long as he can stay healthy. And for them to go back to Terrence Steele was really surprising to me. It didn't make a lot of sense. But then again, we're watching the first 20 minutes of practice, and for much of which the offensive line isn't doing anything within 120 yards of where we're standing. So there has to be something that I would say the number one has to be Joe Philbin. I mean, Joe Philbin had to be the offensive line coach who won't be coaching tomorrow because of COVID. He has a lot of say in this, and he obviously had a lot of say in them signing Terrence Steele as an undrafted rookie free agent last year. And so he obviously thinks a lot of him. And Lyle Collins isn't Joe Philbin's guy. Lyle Collins is a guy who was already here before. And so maybe the only thing I take away from him is maybe that Lyle has to show him something that he hasn't shown him yet, even though the rest of us that have watched him for his entire Cowboys career are just kind of like, this just makes no sense. Just put him back out there. Like, this guy, when he's at his best, his ceiling is just higher than Terrence Steele. There's no question about it. So this game will be interesting because if everything clicks on the offensive line, let's say, Dak stays relatively clean in the pocket, they run the ball pretty well, we could be looking at the offensive line that they roll with for the rest of the season.
All right. Is Micah Parsons better as a defensive end where he's getting sacks or as a linebacker where he's making more tackles?
I think he's better as an edge rusher. I think his impact there just is a greater. I mean, because here's the thing, it's like not even just about the sacks and the tackles for losses. I mean, those are the easy stats that everybody notices, but it's just the pressure and then the fact that the opposing team's quarterback knows he's over there and knows that it's a guy that his speed is just different off the edge than most guys. You're dealing with somebody that can really wreck any given play. Whereas I feel like when he's at linebacker, there's a little bit more reacting going on just because of the nature of the position. But on this particular team, though, I feel like they're most valuable. If they have Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence back, I want Micah Parsons at linebacker because he's just so much better than any of the other linebackers they have on the team. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the draft, this upcoming draft in April. Because, they'll have Jabril Cox coming back, but Keanu Neal's in the final year. He was only in a one-year deal. Leighton Vander Esch is in the final year of his rookie deal. So they could be looking at I just think it'll be interesting to see what they do in this draft and in free agency because it could tell us a lot about what they think about Micah Parsons. Because if they add a bunch of linebackers, they could be thinking about moving him down to rush more often. But as of right now, as long as Dan Quinn is the defensive coordinator, he likes him being the chess piece that he can constantly move around, and opposing coaches don't know from week to week where number 11 is going to be at. And so as long as that's the case, I think that every week it could be different.
Last week's officiating notwithstanding, because that could have gone the same way for either team because there were so many penalties caused in that game. What do you think is the biggest reason for the Cowboys' funk right now? Is it injuries or is it something bigger?
I think if you asked everybody that covers this team, I think we might all have a little bit of a different answer. But for me, and I've felt this way for the last couple of weeks, I know this might sound too simplistic, but I really feel if you fix the issues on the offensive line, I think the trickle down to everything else will fall into place. I really do. If you can just get the running game somewhat back to the way it was at the beginning of the season, and then you can protect Dak and allow him to get the ball out to the playmakers, I think everything about the offense, everyone takes a little bit more pressure. I feel like they're pressing a little bit too much right now that you're getting Amari back, CD and Gallup. If you can just get them the ball and not have to worry about plays getting blown up, not having to worry about, the last game, you got Tyron Smith turning inside and him and Connor McGovern are blocking each other. Like just simple things that you almost took for granted watching this Cowboys offensive line for the last decade. If they can get that straightened out, I think it trickles down for the rest of the offense. And if the offense is clicking, I think it trickles down to the rest of the defense. So if I can fix one thing, it's that offensive line.
Yeah, I got to tell you, then that's why they play the games. And I heard a little bit of this, just kind of when they were 6-1 and they're going to go 15-2. You just don't do it. And there's always a game or two you lose, you shouldn't. And there's a game or two maybe you win and you shouldn't. And the wins against New England and San Diego, Minnesota were dicey, right? I mean, they're good. I think they're really good. But, man, they have kind of calmed down the waters a little bit. John, with New Orleans, I got to tell you, man, I don't watch them very much. I used to love watching them, not just if Drew Brees was playing. I just kind of like watching them. It's hard for me to watch them. Who are they?
That's a great question. I did a roundtable for our website yesterday with Catherine Terrell, who covers the Saints for us, and I was kind of trying to feel her out on the same exact thing. Like, what is this team exactly like? What do you think that, what's going on at quarterback? Like, is Taysom Hill really going to be a guy that's going to play the entire game? And from what she sees, that sounds like what they're going to go with for this game. And that just seems so strange to me that, one, the contract that they just gave Taysom Hill, and then two, just the fact of he just seems like more of a gadget guy than a guy that you're going to give every snap to. And it's hard to predict. And really, because of that, that's what makes this game so unpredictable, because of the fact of you just sit there and you're like, okay, on paper, the Cowboys should definitely win this game, no doubt about it. But then you sit there and you're like, well, they have Sean Payton, and everything about this team seems unpredictable right now. And they're playing in the Superdome on Thursday night. Like, the place is going to be rocking. So there's just enough things there that make you think, well, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys lose this game either. So I really don't know. I don't know if the Saints really know what they have right now. Certainly the way that they've played recently. I mean, really, the way they've played since Jameis Winston was lost for the season is completely night and day from what they were earlier. So I honestly don't know what to expect tomorrow. I mean, I would think Taysom Hill has to play pretty well for them to have a chance to win. And who knows if that happens or not. If DeMarcus Lawrence is fully healthy, like everybody that's seen him in practice has said he looks, then I think it's going to have a hard time, because I think he's going to have Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence in his face a lot. But if Taysom Hill can have a great game somehow, I mean, yeah, I could certainly see the Saints winning.
John, who did Mike McCarthy leave in charge?
So it is going to be Dan Quinn, and I think that's the obvious choice, just because of not only his head coaching experience, but also his head coaching experience in this building in plenty of games when he was the Falcons coach against the Saints. I understand that, I get that there's fans and there's people on the outside are concerned about the idea of him having to come down from the booth, where it's been successful for them that way, but he's a former head coach, and it's not like he was a head coach 10 years ago. When you look across this entire staff, I like it for his experience and what he's done as a head coach, but then I also like it because I think the only other option would have been Kellen Moore. And when you don't have your offensive line coach and you don't have your assistant offensive line coach, you're already dealing with issues there. Your tight ends coach is going to be your offensive line coach for this game. Like, I'm not trying to mess up any more on the offense. Like, let Kellen focus on worrying on that stuff, not having to, know when to throw challenge flags and doing things like that. I mean, he's never even been a head coach in a game before. I just think that'd be a lot on his plate in this environment. Like, I thought Dan Quinn was the no-brainer, and I think it's smart that they're going in that direction.
All right, John, you have one job. The Cowboys fans expect you to get down in there and bring back some gumbo, Creole, etouffee, and maybe a Cowboys win as well. I can't. Can you imagine, even with how bad Philadelphia, the Giants, Washington, and they're kind of slowly, one of them's trying to creep into the 500 level. I can't imagine that any of them ever get back in it. But if you keep on, who knows? I mean, it's just 17 games, another extra week. They can still win the division by 4 games, and then if it gets into a dogfight, that will be shocking to me from where they were.
No, it will. But I will say this: as bad as Cowboys fans will feel about the team if they lose this game tomorrow night, to your point, with them having Washington the following week, they'll be on 10 days. We'll be in between games, and it looks like you're going to have Randy Gregory and possibly Neville Gallimore back for that game too. Like, that could be your first game where you have like everybody ready to roll, and that could be the best team you put out all season. And if you win that Washington game, then that puts 3 games in between you and them. I mean, you're clearly right back into your driver's seat in your division. And so, as bad as it could be, and believe me, there'll be a lot of doom and gloom talked about this team if they lose tomorrow night, but it still won't be anything that comes close to ending their season or ending their playoff hope.
All right, John. Well, where are you eating when you're in New Orleans? Because you're probably already there, right?
I am, but man, you guys, I'm the worst with this stuff. I'm not a big go to fancy restaurants, stuff like that. I'm about to go to the Mavericks Pelicans game. Like, I'll probably eat some whatever foods at the stadium. I'm going with some friends that I know that live in New Orleans. So I just don't do all of the. I don't know. I'm just a bad person to ask about this stuff.
Sounds like you're a good person, John.
Yeah.
That sounds
well. Here, I'll tell you this. This one right here alone will get you guys to roll your eyes. I don't eat any seafood at all, so that is really knocking a lot off the list.
Yeah, you're not in a good spot for you.
All right, John. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. John Machota, theathletic.com, with us on Wednesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. Cowboys and Saints play tomorrow night. When we come back, Paul Catalina, top 5, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Dr. Kent Petty. You know, Mary's in the office. She's one of those that will help you if you're in the program to help increase your testosterone level. She's always happy. She's the one that is the one really that spends more of the time with clients of Dr. Kent Petty, pettycliniclowt.com, those who are needing some sort of a program to boost their testosterone levels. And I joke with her because she's always talking about how the phones are ringing, new clients, new people every day. And I said, I think I'll go on the radio and just say you don't want any more clients or customers. But then again, she says, no, don't do that. But they're busy. Their phones are ringing. Dr. Kent Petty, pettycliniclowt.com. Two things. As you get older, you can be a part of one of every 3 men have low symptomatic issues when it comes to testosterone. Sleep, energy, sex drive. Dr. Kent Petty will get you set up to get an appointment to get your lab work, blood work. He'll look at the testosterone levels, and if they're too low, 1 out of every 3 men have that issue. He can put you in a program or give you the options to increase it with pettycliniclowt.com. Tell them Smokey sent you at pettycliniclowt.com.
Black Friday. It gets all the attention, but what about Truck Friday? Jay here from Pickup Outfitters, and we say enough is enough. AirPods? Good luck storing your tools in those things. Get me a toolbox, please, for $50 off at Pickup Outfitters. And a bathrobe is not going to keep your golf clubs or fishing poles covered up in your bed. You need to give your wife some help and send her to Pickup Outfitters instead. We got a truckload of specials for Truck Friday. WeatherTech or Husky floor liners, $40 off when you purchase a set. Free plug in the bed with every gooseneck or fifth wheel install. Spray in bed liners with a lifetime warranty, $75 off. ARE camper shells or DCU units, $200 off. $150 off Amp Research Power Steps. Catskin leather kits, $100 off. A complete list of specials is in our showroom. Truck Friday is 8 days only from Friday, November 26th through Saturday, December 4th. Pick up Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, on the web at createacommotion.com/Truck Friday.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
New car
cars and trucks are coming. New car inventory is low, but GM just announced they'll release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. Now is the time to get your name on Richard Carr's first in-line priority list and get a car or truck first. Call Richard Carr Motors or go online to discuss cars and trucks in transit today. Go to richardcarr.com for more details.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 things that need updating in college football. Some of these I have answers to. Some of them we'll put it to the committee here. But number 5, the transfer portal. I'm all for the one-time transfer rule, but like this whole, and maybe it just needs to be just an ethical view of it or just a common sense view of the thing. This whole flooding thing, like I don't think Lincoln Riley should be able to just take 9 guys from Oklahoma with him.
I don't either.
I think there should be some kind of restriction on that. I think that, like, I get giving the kids, more rights than they had, and I'm all for it because the transfer rule before was really stupid and arbitrary, but this is maybe too, like what college football does is they overcorrect, and this is way overcorrected, and now, again, Lincoln Riley, 9 guys, realistically, whatever cap there is on transfers, he could take as many as he really wants.
Lincoln Riley going to USC is good for college football, I guess, but him stripping apart Oklahoma and basically wrecking their recruiting class and leaving them, in the lurch as far as basically all of their top players next year, it's kind of screwed up. And I'm with you. You can't take away the right from the kids to be able to, or young men, whatever, young women to be able to have the opportunity. But I saw a great video, and I don't know if it was Footwork King on Twitter. It was one of those trainers. I think it might have been Footwork King. If it wasn't, I apologize. But he had a little video he posted where he was ranting because he trains a lot of these guys, and he was basically saying some of y'all are just jumping in just to jump in. And he's absolutely right. Some dudes are just doing it to do it. They're not like sitting back and going, God, I've worked so hard. I've done everything I could possibly do to get playing time, and it's just not there. Like, if you've done that, fine. If you can't break the starting lineup because there's 2 or 3 guys in front of you that are just flat out better, okay, then explore a transfer. But if you're transferring because you were there for 5 seconds and didn't get a starting job, and then now you're in the portal just because you're bored, because that's what it is. It's like half these guys are just bored. They're just like, the cool thing to do is to jump in the transfer portal. And the best point that he made was, this is not a re-recruitment. This is not like when you were a senior in high school or a junior in high school and you were going to go through the whole. You don't get to do that twice unless you are just the elite of the elite, and 99.9% of these guys are nowhere close to that. So it's doing it to do it, and it's doing it in some cases for the right reasons, but I think that's like the minority, and that's the problem. And how they address that, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how you fix it. That's the one of the ones I don't have an answer for. Number 4, I do have an answer for. The playoff. Just quit arguing about it and fix it. Just change it. You already have a system. It'll be better. It won't be the perfect thing, but it'll be better than the stupid Circle J we have right now.
You could take 15 of our viewers and listeners and get in a room and they fix this son of a bitch in an hour.
Oh, yeah, and it would be better, and it would be transparent, and we wouldn't have to, no matter what 15 we picked, talk about stupid terms like game control or style points. The playoff, I wish they would launch that show into the freaking sun and melt it to where it could never be put together again. Get rid of that stupid TV show.
If we ever get Bill Hancock on, and
I can't. I know Brett Daniels, but I don't know if I want him on.
Here's the thing. I want to ask him one question. While the 14 playoff is still in place, Bill, can you explain to me why we should watch this television show until the last week? Can you tell me why? And if any of the answers are, well, it's entertaining, it's not factual.
No, I launched that thing into the sun. The playoff, I think it's clear something needs to change. What that is, I don't know. I think a lot of people have brought up great points about how you can potentially water it down, and all of a sudden the regular season doesn't mean as much. So it is a bit of a tightrope that you're walking, but I refuse to believe that this is the only sport in the entire world that cannot figure out a proper postseason. Because it is. It's the only sport.
The other ones don't get into politics. This one is. That's that's it.
Here is the thing. Or just go to do what they do with soccer internationally and develop a point system and don't have a playoff.
Why do you need a committee to pick teams? Why do you need a committee to pick your teams for you is beyond me, especially this committee. And, Gary Barta, you are so full of it, dude. I'm sure he does a great job with Iowa athletics and all of that. But, I'd say that Jeff Long was full of it. Kirby Hocutt was full of it. All those guys. I'm tired of seeing you. Get off my TV and let's do something that actually makes sense.
It's a job very similar to being the press secretary for the president.
Yeah.
That what you say in the moment doesn't have to make sense. It just has to answer a question.
Exactly.
It doesn't just has to answer the question, move on.
All right.
That's what they do. Number 3, the targeting rule. Love Todd Berry's idea. Targeting 1, targeting 2, like a flagrant foul in basketball. Look, if it's unintentional targeting, sure, give him a 15-yard penalty, but you can tell, and Todd Berry said, you can really legitimately tell the ones that are reckless and cheap and the ones that are
unintentional
oopsies.
This is not a hard rule to be able to follow through on. And but there are officials that will make this so complicated and make it like a 15-minute review of a thing that's clearly one or the other. But yeah, the targeting rule, I hate the targeting rule from the standpoint of I like what it's supposed to be about, but I hate how it's now been used, and it's like such a massive penalty for teams, and a guy's just trying to go in and make a tackle. He's not trying to be dirty. He's not trying. He goes in to make a tackle, and the running back lowers his head, and now this guy gets tossed from the game. That makes absolutely no freaking sense.
Yeah.
It makes none.
Yeah. Look, Jamison Williams the other night and against Auburn, that was legit targeting.
Yes, that was
a cheap shot.
Yeah.
Okay, he needed to get kicked out of the game. He needed to learn his lesson. But oops-a-daisies don't need to get kicked out of games.
I don't know what the definition of targeting is, but just the word target itself seems like you're aiming at something. I don't think 75% of the targetings that I see are a guy intentionally targeting anything.
And and the game's faster, bigger, better, faster, stronger, just a slight delay of a helmet or somebody else dipping their helmet, and you can target, and it's not because you meant to.
Yeah.
All right.
Number 2, early signing day. They've got to fix this.
No, Mac Rhodes mentioned that.
Yeah, they've got to fix. They got to change the date. And look, it might even be moving it into the summertime. Make it August 1st before practices start. If you look at all the other early signing days, they're not in the middle of the team's season that they're doing.
Basketball has April and November, right?
Yeah,
they do it in November, right as the season's beginning, and then and then a chunk of it in April.
But yeah, so they're. But they got to move this. They got to move this around at least, or push the early signing day back to where at least it would save you to firing your coach with the last 3 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, I think with the early signing day, the problem if you were to do it so early would be guys changing their minds and deciding hey, the team I was committed to in August that I'm officially signed to now is. All of a sudden not as good as I thought. And then, you have a lot of that. That's where I could see that being problematic, or a coaching change happens if you do it before the season. So that would be hard. But, something does need to probably change there. I don't it's basically back-to-back. What does the 2 months difference make, quite frankly? I guess it helps the coaches that they can analyze what they have and then go from there, but...
the reason they have the early signing period is for early entrance into college, I believe.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
But also, part of the thing was, you look at why you had signing day when it was. Guys used to have to travel. It was harder to get in touch with people. Now, it's really not. It's not hard. I can get in touch with anybody
why it was in February?
seconds.
Because it always had been in February.
Yeah, exactly. They need to just fix that.
Well, Mac Rhodes told us yesterday that they are meeting about it. They've discussed it, and they will try to also discuss it again during the early part of the year.
Number 2 leads into number 1. And this one I don't have a complete answer for, and I don't think anybody does. But the coaching cycle needs to somehow get course corrected, because this is, look, it's great for the guys like Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley, but it's not great for everybody who's in the wake of it, and so
you don't think it's great for Alex Grinch?
I'm sure, yeah, but again, I'm talking about the people who are.
Yeah, I'm talking about everybody.
Notre Dame players, I saw. Did you watch the video? It was 3 minutes and 42 seconds. Now, look, I don't know how many different ways you can say. I hope one day that you guys get offered so much money that you can Scrooge McDuck into a pool, but that just happened to me, so I'm going and I need a new challenge. That's fine. I don't have a problem with coaches leaving and taking new jobs. I think I have a problem with the way, and I think most people do, with the way it's now gone about.
I think the for me, the big problem was started with Joey McGuire. It started with the in-season changes. It's one thing to fire the coach during the season and then you have an interim the rest of the way. It's an entirely different thing to fire a coach, then hire the guy before your season's over with. Mm-hmm. Like that I think is what you'd have to somehow force hires to be past a certain point. Because that wasn't right what happened with Baylor's linebackers, just losing a guy in the middle of a championship run. It's not right when these guys get fired in general. I mean, you can't totally solve that. But the fact that Lincoln Riley, before OU's final whistle was over, he was basically already recruiting for USC. There's just something wrong with that. You're not going to slow down the pay. The SEC has made that impossible to do with the big money contracts that they've delivered over the years. That's not going to slow down at all. It sucks for the kids. I know that much. It sucks for the teams that were in contention and all of a sudden just got totally derailed by a Lincoln Riley situation or whatever.
I want to ask you. We can bring this up again tomorrow. I know we got to go. The college football playoff is designed to get the 4 best teams in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Why do we have to have the 4 best teams? Why don't we have the 4 who earn their way in based on how it's set up? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sometimes in the NFL.
So we can say Alabama deserves it no matter what, basically. And I know they haven't made it every year, but
earn it in. That doesn't. I don't know if that makes. We could get to it tomorrow a little bit more, but sometimes you don't have the best teams. Sometimes a great team doesn't make the playoffs, okay?
Well, the 4 best makes it very subjective.
Yeah.
Earn makes it out of their control to where there's no point in having a committee. And do you think those guys want that? I don't.
From Week 2K, anything based on people's opinions sucks. All playoff spots should be earned on the field. It should be a tournament of champions. If you're not the best of the 10 or 14 teams in your conference, you can't be king.
And look, if they do an 18 playoff and you're number 9, well, sorry, it's not the same as being number 4 and having a great argument that you won your conference. If you're number 9, you probably don't deserve a spot.
Yeah. All right. By the way, 23 years ago today, Bob Stoops was introduced as the next head coach at Oklahoma, and here we are all this time later. Jack McKenzie, Hayden Bumpus. Congratulations, Hayden. He graduated. He left us for a while. Good to have you back. Armstrong Sims as well. Thanks to our amazing sponsors. We're going to be live in Arlington at AT&T Stadium Saturday. Baylor pregame inside the stadium. Having fun with that. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, thank you. Watching, listening, spread the word. I'm David Smoak. Good night. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.